If you're enjoying this video, smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell. Share it with your friends and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Every like and subscribe helps the channel grow. My name is Maggie Holt. I work as a park ranger at Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico. Today, I'm checking the deep parts of the caves that tourists never see. I fix my helmet light and breathe in the cool cave air. It smells like wet rocks and dirt. I love this smell. It means I'm back where I belong, deep under the ground. Just another day at work, I say to myself as I walk deeper into the cave. My light shines on the cave walls. There are cool rock shapes hanging from the ceiling and growing from the floor. They've been forming one drop at a time for thousands of years. My light makes shadows on the walls. Wait, those shadows seem to move even when I hold my light still. That's strange. Water drips somewhere nearby. Drip, drip, drip. The sound bounces off the walls, making echoes. If I listen too hard, it almost sounds like whispers or voices talking. As I walk along checking things, I spot something weird. A smooth dent in the cave floor. It's a perfect circle and super smooth, like someone scooped out the rock with a giant spoon. Natural cave floors aren't smooth like this. I kneel down to touch it. It feels like glass. My tools start acting funny too. The one that checks magnetic fields is going crazy when it should be still. And my air checker shows the carbon dioxide levels going up and down, like something huge is breathing nearby. Suddenly, a bunch of bats fly right past my face. I duck down fast. That's not right. The bats are flying deeper into the cave instead of toward the exits. They seem scared, like they're running from something. I grab my radio. Hey, it's Maggie! Something weird is happening with the bats down here. The radio cuts me off with static noise. Through the static, I hear something that gives me goosebumps. Whispers, not from my team up above. Different whispers. I turn off the radio. Sometimes it's better not to listen. That's when I notice strange marks on the wall. 3 straight lines side by side. They're too perfect to happen naturally, and they're too big to be from any cave animal I know about. I follow the scratch marks and find an opening. My map doesn't show. There should be a solid wall here, but instead there's a room I've never seen before. My light shows old drawings on the wall. They look ancient, like Native Americans made them long ago. The pictures show people turning into something else, something with too many arms and legs. Next to the pictures are weird symbols carved into the rock, like warnings in languages nobody speaks anymore. It feels warmer in here. I check my thermometer. It's 15 degrees warmer than it should be. I mark several warm spots on my map. When I connect these spots, they make a pattern like blood vessels running through the entire cave. I think about my brother who disappeared in these caves 20 years ago. Everyone said he got lost, but my brother knew these caves too well. Something else happened to him down here, standing in this hidden room with ancient warnings on the walls and weird warmth flowing through the stone. I wonder if I'm finally going to learn what really happened to him. The cave seems darker now, even though my headlamp is working fine. And then I hear it clearly, not just dripping water, not just my imagination, but real whispers coming from the walls themselves. Is anyone there? I call out, trying to sound brave. The whispers just get louder, and I can't shake the feeling that I'm not alone down here. Something is watching me from the darkness, something that doesn't want to be found. I wasn't always a park ranger. I used to be a scientist studying caves at a big university. But something happened in these very caves that changed everything for me. 5 years ago, I got stuck down here during a rockfall. My light broke, and I was alone in the pitch black for 2 days before they found me. Most people would never want to go underground again after that. But for me, it was different. In that darkness, I felt something, like the cave was alive. Somehow, like it was trying to tell me things. That's when I knew I had to leave my university job and work here full time. The caves were calling to me. But there's another reason I'm here. My brother Matt disappeared in these caves 20 years ago when I was just a teenager. They found his backpack and helmet, but never found him. Everyone thinks he got lost and died, but I never believed that. Matt knew these caves better than anyone. I touched the long scar on my face, running from my temple to my jaw. I got it during my first solo trip down here when a rock fell and hit me. The weird thing was how it fell, almost like it was thrown. I never told anyone that part. "Maggie, you okay down there?" A voice crackles through my radio, making me jump. It's Paul Reeves, the new ranger trainee who's supposed to meet me in Checkpoint 3. Paul reminds me of myself when I first started, excited about every little rock and shadow. "I'm fine," I answer. "Just found something interesting. I'll show you when we meet up." I don't tell Paul that I'm carrying special equipment that the park boss doesn't know about. Hidden in my backpack are sensors I built myself to detect the weird energy fields I've felt down here for years. I've been mapping them in secret, keeping a journal that no one at the park has ever seen. The truth is, the park maps are wrong. I've found passages that aren't on any official map, and lately, even my own secret maps seem wrong. Like the caves are slowly changing shape. Around my neck hangs a small glass vial on a leather cord. Inside is a strange glowing fungus I found growing on Matt's abandoned backpack when they discovered it years after he vanished. It's unlike any cave fungus ever documented. And the weird thing is, it glows brightest in the areas where my instruments detect the strongest energy readings. I hear footsteps approaching and quickly tuck the vial under my shirt. "Maggie! There you are!" Paul appears around the corner, his new helmet gleaming, his face eager. "Sorry I'm late. I got a little turned around back there. I don't tell him that's impossible." The path from the entrance to here is a straight shot with no side tunnels. There's no way to get turned around unless something changed. "No problem," I say instead. "Listen, Paul, there's something I need to tell you. This isn't just a routine inspection. I'm actually here to check some unusual seismic readings." Paul's eyes widen. "Earthquake risk?" "Not exactly," I say carefully. "These movements are too regular, too rhythmic to be natural shifts." "What else could cause that?" I take a deep breath. This is where most people start thinking I'm crazy. That's what we're going to find out. I don't tell him my real theory, that something is moving down here, something big, something intelligent, something that might know what happened to my brother. As we walk deeper into the cavern, I notice Paul looking nervously at the shadows. "Did you hear that?" he whispers. "Hear what?" "Like whispering. It almost sounded like someone saying my name. I feel a chill that has nothing to do with the cave air. The caves are speaking to him already, just like they spoke to me, just like they probably spoke to Matt. It's just water dripping," I lie. "The acoustics down here play tricks on your mind." Paul nods, but doesn't look convinced. "Where are we heading exactly?" I check my compass, though I don't really need to. I can feel which way we need to go, like a pull in my chest. "There's a chamber up ahead that's not on the official maps. I found it last year. There's something there I need to check." "Not on the maps? Shouldn't we report that?" I don't answer. Some things are better left unreported. Some things the world isn't ready to know about yet. The whispering grows louder as we approach the hidden chamber, and this time I know Paul can hear it too. His face has gone pale in the beam of his headlamp. The vial against my chest begins to glow brighter through my shirt, casting an eerie blue light upward onto my face. Paul stares at it in shock. "Maggie, what is that?" I pull out the vial, letting it hang free. "It's our compass," I say quietly. "It'll lead us to what we're looking for." "And what exactly are we looking for?" Paul's voice shakes slightly. "The truth is too much right now. He wouldn't believe me anyway." "Answers," I say simply. "I'm looking for answers. We step into a chamber I discovered last year," and Paul gasps. The floor is covered with thousands of small bones arranged in perfect circles around a dip in the Middle of the room. What are these? Paul asks, kneeling down. Animal bones. I bend down beside him. Mostly bats and small rodents, but I've never seen them arranged like this before. That's when I notice our lights starting to dim. I check my battery pack. It's full. This is different. It's like the darkness is getting thicker, actually eating our light instead of being pushed away by it. Is something wrong with your light too? Paul asks, tapping his helmet. Before I can answer, we feel it, a low humming vibration coming up through the cave floor. It makes my teeth tingle. The sound gets louder and dust starts falling from the ceiling. The tiny rocks hanging from above begin to shake and ring like bells. But the dust doesn't fall straight down. It floats and swirls in patterns, like little galaxies in the air. Is this an earthquake? Paul sounds scared. No, I say. Earthquakes don't feel like this. Paul suddenly jumps and scratches at his arm. Something's wrong. My skin is itchy where that cave water splashed me. I shine my weakening light on his arm. Tiny, see-through worm-like things are wiggling just under his skin. Don't touch it, I warn. We need to get you back to the surface. What are they? His voice rises in panic. I don't know. I've never seen anything like this before. But I'm lying. I've seen them once, on my brother's backpack when they found it. We start to move toward the exit when Paul freezes, staring at the wall. Did you see that? I look where he's pointing. For a second, I think I see a ripple in the solid rock wall, like something moving inside it. It's just shadows, I say, not believing my own words. I pull out my equipment. The needle is spinning wildly, the reading higher than I've ever seen. Maggie, Paul says slowly, these formations, they look like stars. He's right. The odd bumps and crystals on the ceiling form patterns that match old star maps I've studied. This can't be a coincidence. Paul sways on his feet. I don't feel good. I'm dizzy. He puts his hands to his head. I can hear my mum calling me from deeper in the cave. Your mom? I ask carefully. Yeah, she's calling my name. We need to go find her. He takes a step toward a dark tunnel. I grab his arm. Paul, didn't you tell me your mother passed away years ago? He looks confused for a moment. Oh, right, she did. But I can still hear her. This is bad, really bad. I've read old stories about cave systems that drive people mad, make them hear dead loved ones calling them deeper underground. We need to leave now, but when I turn back the way we came, I freeze. My helmet light catches something stuck in the wall, the corner of an old metal box. I recognize it instantly. It was my brother's lunchbox from his last expedition, but that's not what scares me. What scares me is that the metal is halfway melted into the stone wall, like the rock grew around it. We're taking the wrong tunnel, Paul suddenly says, his voice sounding strange. We need to go this way. He points to a passage I don't recognize. No, the exit is back the way we came, I insist, checking my map. But when I look up, my blood runs cold. The passage that should lead back to the main cavern now slopes steeply downward. That's not right, I whisper. This isn't what my map shows. Maps change, Paul says with a weird smile. The cave is changing. The temperature is rising around us. I touch the wall, and it's warm. Too warm. And when I press harder, it feels soft, like the stone is slightly squishy, like it's alive. We need to find another way out, I say, trying to stay calm. Paul's eyes look glassy, unfocused. The little worms under his skin have spread, moving up his arm. I think we should go deeper, he says. It's safer down there. I grab his arm. No, Paul, that's not you talking. Something in here is affecting your mind. The vial around my neck is glowing so bright now it hurts my eyes. The humming gets louder, making my head ache. Don't you hear them, Maggie? Paul whispers. The voices, they're saying they know what happened to Matt. They can take you to him. I freeze. How does he know about my brother? I never told him that story. What did you say? I ask, my voice shaking. But Paul just smiles that strange smile again. The depths are calling. We should answer. As we stand there trying to figure out which way to go, I notice something strange happening on the cave walls. The shadows are moving by themselves. They pull away from the walls and form shapes that look almost like people. These shadow figures and copy our movements like they're mocking us, but when I shine my light directly at them, they melt back into the darkness. Maggie? Paul's voice shakes. What are those things? Before I can answer, a patch of wall near us starts to glow with a soft blue-green light. The stone seems to bubble and shift, and something begins to form. It looks like it's made partly of stone and partly of the same glowing fungus that's in my vial. The creature slides out from the wall. It's hard to describe, like a person, but made of living rock with glowing veins running through it. As it moves toward us, I notice it doesn't walk. It flows, like thick honey. Run! I grab Paul's arm and pull him down the nearest tunnel. We can hear them behind us, making a sound like rocks grinding together. What's worse is that we can feel them too. They're sending vibrations through the cave that make my teeth hurt and my bones ache. Somehow these vibrations form words in my head. Return, belong, join. Paul stops suddenly, clutching his arm where the tiny parasites entered his skin. In the glow of my light, I can see his skin has started to turn grey and hard in patches, like it's turning to stone. When he looks up at me, his eyes reflect my light, like cave crystals. It doesn't hurt, Maggie, he says in a calm voice that doesn't sound like him anymore. They just want to talk to us. I back away from him. Paul, we need to get you to a doctor. Whatever these things are, they're changing you. He smiles, but it's not his smile anymore. Changing me? Or making me better? One of the stone creatures flows around the corner and touches Paul's shoulder. He screams as his flesh starts to melt into the creature's body. I want to help him, but there's nothing I can do. Part of Paul is now connected to the thing, like they're becoming one creature. They're not killing us, Paul gasps through the pain. They're adding us to their colony. They've been doing this for thousands of years. The fungus in my vial suddenly burns bright, so bright it hurts my eyes. The creatures pull back, like the light is painful to them. I hold the vial up higher, and they retreat further into the shadows. In that bright light, I see something terrifying. The glow reveals a network of glowing lines throughout the entire cave system, like veins in a body. These things aren't just in this cave. They're everywhere, spread through the whole mountain. Why are they doing this? I ask Paul, still keeping my distance. His eyes are fully reflective now, like mirrors. They're lonely, Maggie. They've been down here so long, they just want company. He reaches his free hand toward me. Join us. Your brother did. My heart stops. Matt? What do you know about Matt? Paul, or what used to be Paul, points deeper into the cave. He's part of us now, part of the deep stone. He's happy here. I back away, holding the vial out like a weapon. You're lying. Whatever you are, you're lying. Am I? His voice changes, and suddenly he sounds exactly like my brother. Hey, Mags, remember when we used to play explorer in the backyard? You always wanted to find the hidden treasure. Only Matt called me Mags. Only Matt knew about our childhood. Games. Matt! My voice breaks. Are you really in there? The thing that was Paul tilts its head. Parts of him. Parts of many. We keep what we add to us. Nothing is ever truly lost down here. The creatures are circling us now, herding us deeper into the cave. I realize they're pushing us towards something, what Paul called their colony, some kind of central nest. More stone creatures emerge from the walls. They're not attacking, they're corralling us. I shine my light ahead and see where they're taking us, a massive chamber where the walls pulse with blue light. The creature, holding Paul, drags him forward. I hear him scream as more of his body merges with the stone entity. His skin is turning gray and hard all over now, his eyes completely reflective like mirrors. They're not killing me, he gasps. They're making me part of something bigger. Can feel their thoughts, Maggie. I can feel everyone they've ever taken. Your brother is here too. He's been waiting for you. The fungus in my vial is reacting violently now, pulsing with light that seems to burn the creatures. As they retreat from the brightness, I realize something important. This fungus isn't just a random growth. It's a weapon, maybe the only weapon, that works against these things. In the bright light of the vial, I can see all the tunnels and chambers connecting to this one, all pulsing with the same blue light, like a giant glowing map of their entire network. You can't fight them. Paul says, his voice a strange mix of his own and something ancient. They've been here since before humans walked the earth. They were just waiting for us to find them. I hold the vial higher, watching how the creatures back away from its light. Maybe I can't fight all of them, I say, but I can fight enough. So get out of here and warn everyone. Paul laughs, a sound like rocks sliding together. Warn them. Humans have known about us for centuries. Why do you think these caves were considered sacred by the native people? Why do you think the government built a park around us? They've been feeding us all along. I think of the tourists who come through every year. The occasional disappearance that gets blamed on people wandering off trail. Could it really be true? The creatures move closer, undeterred by my small vial now. I feel the stone floor beneath my feet growing warmer, softer, like it's trying to swallow me too. I'm trapped deep in the cave with these stone creatures closing in around me. My mind races to find a way out. The only thing keeping them back is the glowing fungus in my vial, but even that seems to be working less and less. I remember something from my training. The caves have an underground river running through the lower levels. If I could break through to it, the water might drive these creatures back, or at least create a path for me to escape. As I back away from the creatures, my foot hits something hard. I look down and see a metal box half buried in the dirt. When I shine my light on it, I see faded government markings. I quickly pull it out and snap it open. Inside are old yellow papers with "Top Secret" stamped on them. My eyes catch phrases like silicon-based life forms and containment protocols. So the government does know about these things. One paper has a map showing a research station nearby. You're too late, Maggie, Paul's voice calls from the creature that's absorbing him. They've known about us for decades. They study us. Sometimes they feed us. I can't waste time thinking about that now. I stuff the papers in my pocket and keep moving, following the path that should lead to the underground river. The creatures herd me into a massive chamber, and what I see makes me freeze in horror. The walls are lined with human shapes, bodies half melted into the stone. Some are old, just impressions now, but others look fresher, their faces still recognizable, and there in the center of it all is a face I would know anywhere. "Matt," I whisper. My brother's face protrudes from the cave wall. His eyes are solid crystal, but his mouth moves, forming words using the cave's strange acoustics. "Maggie, you came." His voice sounds like stones sliding together. "Matt, what did they do to you?" I touch his stone cheek, tears filling my eyes. "They didn't hurt me. I'm part of them now. We all are." Each word seems to take great effort. "Join us, Maggie. It's peaceful. Here." I back away. "No, Matt, this isn't right. I'm going to get help." "No, help." Matt's stone face shifts slightly. "Been 20 years, too late for me." A plan forms in my mind. If I can reach the underground river and break through the thin wall I know is there, I could flood the lower chambers and escape in the rush of water. I turn to run, but find stone creatures blocking my path. My brother's voice echoes behind me. "They won't let you leave." I pull out my rock hammer from my belt. I'm not asking permission. I dodge around the closest creature and sprint down a narrow tunnel I know leads toward the river. Behind me, I hear them flowing like living stone, gaining on me. I reach the spot where my secret map shows the river should be, just beyond the wall. I swing my hammer hard against the cave wall. Small cracks appear. Water begins to seep through. The creatures are right behind me now. I hit the wall again and again, putting all my strength into each blow. The cracks grow larger. More water pushes through. Paul appears behind me, now almost completely absorbed by the stone creature. Only his face remains recognizable. "You'll flood the whole system," he warns. "You'll drown too. Better that than become like you," I say, and strike one final blow. The wall gives way with a terrible cracking sound. Water bursts through with incredible force. I'm knocked off my feet as the tunnel begins to flood. The creatures shriek, a sound like grinding stone that hurts my ears. The water rises fast, filling the tunnel. The current is strong, pulling me along. I see the stone creatures dissolving in the rushing water, unable to maintain their form. Suddenly, the tunnel begins to collapse from the pressure of the water. Huge chunks of ceiling fall around me. I'm going to be crushed, or drowned, or both. Then I feel something push me, hands made of stone. It's Paul, or what's left of him. He's fighting against the creature that's absorbed him, creating a moment of confusion in their shared body. "Go!" he shouts in his human voice. "I'll hold them back!" I don't waste his sacrifice. I let the current carry me, swimming with all my strength. The rushing water pushes me through a narrow passage and into a vertical shaft I've never seen before. I'm thrown upward by the force of the water, gasping for air whenever my head breaks the surface. The cave is collapsing all around me, but the water keeps pushing me up and up after what feels like hours of fighting the current, being scraped against rocks and nearly drowning multiple times. I see a pinpoint of light above me. The water carries me up and suddenly I'm outside. The water has pushed me through a crack in the earth miles from the main cavern entrance. I drag myself onto solid ground, coughing and gasping. For 3 days I wander through the desert, following the sun, drinking morning dew from plants. When I finally stumble back to the ranger station, I'm dehydrated, covered in cuts and bruises. No one believes my story. They say I must have breathed in toxic cave gas and hallucinated the whole thing. They tell me Paul got lost, and they're still searching for him. They say the cave-in was caused by natural forces, not my actions. The official report calls it a geological event. My report about living stone creatures and government cover-ups is ignored, but I know what I saw. I know what happened to Matt, and to Paul. And at night, when I'm alone, I look at the small patches of grey, stone-like growth spreading on my skin where the cave water touched me. It doesn't hurt. In fact, it feels almost comforting. Sometimes I hear whispers when no one else is around. Voices calling me back to the collapsed passages. Matt's voice. Paul's voice. Others I don't recognize. They're waiting for me down there, in the darkness, and part of me wants to answer their call. Part of me wants to go home to the whispering depths, because the cave is patient. The cave is ancient, and the cave always gets what it wants in the end. My name is Fred Powell. I'm a park ranger at Redwood National Park. I work in the forest with the biggest trees in the world. These trees are so tall they seem to touch the sky. This morning, I woke up early when the sun was just starting to shine. Through the trees, I put on my ranger uniform and hat. I took a deep breath of the fresh forest air. It smelled like wet dirt and green plants. I could hear woodpeckers tapping on trees far away. "Come on, Ranger," I called to my dog. Ranger is my German shepherd. He's been my friend for 9 years now. We go everywhere together in the forest, but today something felt wrong. The forest didn't feel normal. The small plants on the ground were shaking, but there was no wind. The squirrels were running around like they were scared of something. It felt like someone was watching us from the shadows between the big trees. We walked to a place called Cedar Grove. Usually, this spot is noisy with birds singing and bugs buzzing. But today, it was quiet. Too quiet. I could only hear the trees making small creaking sounds as they moved just a little bit. Suddenly, a group of deer ran across the path right in front of us. They were running very fast, like they were running away from something scary. They were running from the same direction I was about to walk toward. Then something really weird happened. The air got super cold all of a sudden. I could see my breath in front of my face, like when you go outside in winter, but it was summer. The plants around me started to get covered in ice crystals. This wasn't normal at all, Ranger whined, and pressed against my leg. He was scared too. I looked at some of the trees and saw something strange. They were leaking a dark liquid. Tree sap is usually light brown or yellow like honey, but this stuff was black and smelled like metal. It reminded me of blood. Just then my radio made a crackling noise. It was my boss Mike. "Fred, you there?" His voice said through the static. "I'm here, what's up?" I answered. "We've got hikers missing near Fern Canyon. Their last known position is close to where you are. 4 people, a professor and 3 students. Can you look for them?" "I'll do it," I said, putting my radio back on my belt. As I started walking toward Fern Canyon, a thick fog came rolling in really fast. Soon I could barely see a few feet in front of me. I've walked these paths 1,000 times, but suddenly nothing looked the same anymore. The ground felt weird under my boots. It felt softer, almost like it was alive, I thought. I saw the tree roots moving when I wasn't looking directly at them. "Stay close, Ranger," I told my dog. We kept walking through the fog until I almost tripped over something. It was a backpack that had been torn to pieces. Stuff from inside was thrown all over a small clearing. The ground was all messed up with deep marks like something heavy had been dragged away. I picked up a piece of torn cloth from the backpack. It was still warm. "Hello?" I called out. "Park Ranger, is anyone there?" Nobody answered. All I could hear was a strange, low sound coming from deeper in the forest. I'd never heard anything like it before. Ranger growled, his ears flat against his head. It was getting dark in the forest, even though it was the middle of the day. I took out my flashlight. "Looks like we're in for trouble, boy," I said to my dog as we looked into the foggy forest. "But those hikers need our help." I had no idea that this was just the beginning of the scariest day of my life. I've been working in these woods for 15 years now. My boss keeps trying to give me a desk job at the ranger station, but I always say no. I'd rather be out here, with the trees and animals, than stuck inside all day. It hasn't always been easy, though. My wife Linda couldn't handle my job. "You love those trees more than you love us, Fred," she told me the day she left. She took our son Tommy with her to Portland. Now I only see him twice a year. I keep a picture of him in my wallet. He's 10 now and barely knows me. Sometimes when I'm alone in the forest, I wonder if I made the right choice. The other rangers respect me because I know everything about these redwood trees. I can tell you how old they are, what animals live in them, and what plants grow around them. But they also think I'm a bit strange. They whisper about how I collect things from the forest that I can't explain, like oddly shaped rocks that couldn't have formed naturally, or twigs bent into perfect circles. My face tells the story of my years outdoors, wrinkled from the sun and with little lines around my eyes from squinting into the distance. I've got a big scar on my neck from 5 years ago when a mountain lion attacked me during a rescue mission. The doctors said I was lucky to be alive. Ranger nudged my hand with his nose, bringing me back to the present. My old dog has saved my life more than once with his sharp senses. Today, he seemed more nervous than I'd ever seen him. I reached into my pocket and touched my silver flask. It doesn't have alcohol in it, just water from a special spring that the local Native American tribes consider sacred. An old tribal man gave it to me after I helped his grandson who got lost in the woods. I'm not usually superstitious, but I've seen things in these forests that made me keep that water close. "Which way, Ranger?" I asked my dog, trying to figure out which path to take in the thick fog. I normally know these woods like the back of my hand. I could walk them blindfolded and still find my way. But today, everything felt wrong, like the paths had moved during the night. Something kept pulling me toward the oldest part of the forest, where the biggest and most ancient redwoods grow. I tried to head toward Fern Canyon, where the hikers were last seen, but somehow I kept ending up on trails leading to the old growth area. I should have been scared and turned back. But I've never left a search unfinished, and I wasn't about to start now, even though my heart was beating fast with fear. The hikers I was looking for weren't just any tourists. The leader was Professor Williams from the university. He had called me last week asking about some old tribal grounds. I had warned him to stay away from certain areas deep in the forest. The local tribes had marked those places as forbidden, and for a reason. But the professor seemed too excited about his research to listen. I remembered the words of Joseph, the tribal elder who gave me my bone-handled knife. There are older things than trees in those woods, and only respect keeps them. Sleeping, I touched the knife at my belt, hoping I wouldn't need to use it today. The fog swirled around me as I pressed forward, following what I hoped was the right trail. The strange silence of the forest pressed against my ears. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever had scared the animals and torn that backpack was still nearby, watching and waiting. "Don't worry," I whispered to Ranger, though I wasn't sure if I was trying to comfort him or myself. "We'll find those hikers and get out of here before dark." But as the shadows grew longer around us, I wasn't so sure anymore. Ranger suddenly stopped and began sniffing the ground. I knelt down to see what had caught his attention. In the soft dirt were footprints, but not like any I'd ever seen before. They were huge, over 20 inches long, and very deep, like whatever made them was extremely heavy. The strangest part was that from each footprint, thin lines spread out into the ground, almost like roots growing from the edges. "What on earth?" I whispered, touching one of the lines. It felt hard, like wood. I looked up at the sky through gaps in the redwood branches. It was getting dark fast, too fast. My watch said it was only 2:17 in the afternoon, but it looked like evening was already falling. It wasn't like normal clouds blocking the sun. It was more like the light was being eaten. Ranger growled, the fur on his back standing straight up. He was facing the trail that led deeper into the old-growth part of the forest. When I tried to move in that direction, he blocked my path, something he'd never done before. "What is it, boy?" I asked, patting his side to calm him down. But he wouldn't budge and kept growling at something I couldn't see. I took a few steps to the side and spotted something hanging from a low branch. A camera. One of those newer models that tourists bring to take color pictures. I carefully took it down and turned it on. The screen lit up, showing photos of 4 people, the missing hikers, I figured. The first few pictures showed them smiling on forest trails and posing by giant redwoods. Normal tourist stuff. But as I flipped through more recent pictures, I noticed something strange in the background. In each photo, there was a tall, dark shape among the trees. At first, it was just a blur, but in each new picture it seemed clearer and closer to the group. My hands started to shake. I quickly put the camera in my pocket. The trees around me were getting worse. More of them were leaking that black sap, and now it was forming patterns on the bark, lines and swirls that reminded me of the warning symbols I'd seen in old tribal books. Then I felt it, a low, humming vibration coming from underneath my feet. It was so strong that small rocks and pine needles on the ground started to bounce and dance around. Ranger whined and pressed against my leg. "It's okay," I said, trying to sound brave. "Probably just a small earthquake." But I knew that wasn't true. This didn't feel like any earthquake I'd experienced before. I noticed something else disturbing. The moss on the ground was growing, not over days or weeks like normal moss, but right before my eyes. When I stood still for more than a moment, green moss started creeping up my boots. I had to keep moving, shaking it off every few seconds. I walked a little further and then stopped dead in my tracks. There on the ground was a hiking boot with the foot still inside. My stomach turned over. But what made it truly horrifying was that roots and small mushrooms were already growing through it, like it had been lying there for months. But I knew these hikers had only been missing since this morning. I took out my radio, my hand shaking. "Base, this is Powell. I need immediate backup at..." I paused, realizing I wasn't exactly sure where I was anymore. At the old growth section, I found evidence of the missing hikers. It's not good. I waited for a response, but what came back made my blood run cold. It was my own voice, echoing back to me from somewhere deep in the darkening woods. Not good, not good, not good. I quickly turned off the radio, my heart pounding. The wind picked up, blowing through the massive trees, but it didn't sound like normal wind. It sounded like whispers, like voices speaking in a language I'd never heard before, yet somehow I felt like I should understand it. The sounds seemed to speak directly to the oldest part of my brain, the animal part that knows when to run and hide. "We need to get out of here," I said to Ranger. But which way was out? Every direction looked the same in the fog and growing darkness, and something told me we were being watched by many eyes hidden among the ancient trees. As I moved between the giant redwoods, I caught sight of something that made me freeze. About 50 feet away stood a tall figure made of twisted roots, pieces of bark, and clumps of leaves. It was shaped almost like a person, but much taller, maybe 10 or 12 feet high. When I stopped moving, it stopped too. When I took a step, it copied me. I blinked hard and rubbed my eyes, thinking I was seeing things. When I looked again, the figure was gone. But then I spotted it between different trees, closer now. Each time I tried to get a good look at it, it seemed to melt back into normal forest stuff, just roots and branches and moss. But then it would form again somewhere else, always getting nearer. "Ranger, do you see that?" I whispered. My dog was staring in the same direction, his body stiff and alert. The thing was marking the trees as it moved. It left deep cuts in the bark, but instead of sap, light leaked out from these cuts when darkness fell completely around us. It was like the trees were glowing from the inside. Ranger kept whimpering when he looked in certain directions. I got the feeling he could see more than I could, and whatever he saw scared him badly. Then the creature started making sounds. First, it made perfect bird calls. Then it whispered what sounded like names, probably the names of the missing hikers. But what really sent chills down my spine was when I clearly heard my ex-wife's voice calling for help. "Fred, Fred, please, help us." I knew it couldn't be her. Linda was hundreds of miles away in Portland. This thing was trying to trick me. I pulled out my flashlight, even though I was afraid of what I might see. When the beam hit the creature directly, I finally got a clear look at it. It was like a huge network of roots and branches all twisted together in the rough shape of a person. Where a face should be, there were just hollow spaces that reflected. My flashlight beamed like pools of water. The air around this thing was freezing cold. I could see frost forming instantly on the plants near it, like it was sucking all the heat away. My breath came out in white clouds, and my fingers started to go numb. What happened next was even stranger. The ancient redwood trees around the creature began to bend toward it. I don't mean they were blowing in the wind. There was no wind. They were actually bending, their massive trunks curving and their branches reaching down like giant fingers, trying to touch the creature. It was like they were bowing to it, or like they knew it somehow. I realized something else that made my skin crawl. No matter which direction I tried to walk, I kept ending up heading toward a certain part of the forest. The ground itself seemed to be guiding my steps, little dips and rises, roots positioned. Just so, all nudging me toward some central place I'd never seen before, even though I thought I knew every inch of these woods. "This isn't right," I muttered to myself. "The forest is controlling where we go." When I tried to go back the way we came, plants started acting strange. Ferns curled away from my touch like they were alive. Branches snapped down to block My path. The moss on the ground got thicker in the direction I didn't want to go, making it easier to walk that way. I had the terrible feeling that the forest, or whatever was controlling it, was herding us, like a shepherd guides sheep. And we were being led deeper and deeper into the oldest part of the woods. "Stay close, Ranger," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. My loyal dog pressed against my side, trembling slightly. "We'll find a way out of this." But the trees were closing in around us. The fog was getting thicker, and that root creature kept appearing and disappearing among the trunks. I felt like a mouse being played with by a cat before the final pounce, and all the while, that strange whispering continued, rising and falling like a tide of ancient words washing over us. After what felt like hours of walking, I found myself in a clearing I'd never seen before. Huge redwoods grew in a perfect circle around a bowl-shaped dip in the earth. The trees here were the oldest in the forest, giants that were already ancient when the first settlers arrived. I carefully approached the center of the circle and looked down into the depression. What I saw made my stomach turn. The bowl was filled with bones, old ones and fresh ones, human and animal, all mixed together. Some looked hundreds of years old, others looked recent. Then it hit me. Professor Williams had mentioned he was doing an archaeological dig. Looking around, I could see signs of recent digging, shovels and other tools scattered about. The professor had broken through something that should have been left alone. The local tribes had warned about this place for generations, and now I understood why. They had grown special plants here for centuries, forming a natural barrier of roots to keep something contained, something that was now free. I remembered the tribal stories I'd been told. I remembered the rituals I'd seen performed in the woods during special ceremonies. Taking a deep breath, I pulled out my knife, the one with the bone handle given to me by the tribal elder. "I know what you are," I said out loud to the forest. "I know the old ways." I cut my palm with the knife, letting the blood drip onto the ground. Then I started speaking the words I'd learned from the elders. I didn't fully understand them, but I'd memorized the sounds perfectly. Natoha Kawina Satona, Maki, Vashona Tulak. As I spoke, the root creature appeared, not just one, but many. They formed a circle around me, rising from the ground and coming from between the trees. They were all connected, parts of the same thing. And they were moving closer. Ranger barked fiercely and lunged at one of the root figures. His teeth tore into the wooden tendrils, but before I could call him back, the creature wrapped around him. My heart broke as I heard my loyal friend give one final sad howl before he was pulled into the mass of twisting roots and vanished. "No!" I shouted, anger overcoming my fear. In desperation, I pulled out my emergency flare and struck it. Bright red chemical fire blazed in my hand, casting strange shadows across the clearing. The creatures hissed and moved back from the fire, and in that moment I saw something that would haunt me forever. Inside the largest root figure were shapes, human shapes. I could make out the missing hikers, partly swallowed by the wooden mass. Their faces were still moving, eyes blinking, mouths opening and closing silently. They were alive in there, but barely. The ground beneath me started to shake and crack. The forest itself seemed to be fighting me now. Trees fell across the paths out of the clearing, crushing one of the root creatures, but revealing 3 more behind it. I stood my ground in the center of the circle, using my flare to keep the creatures at bay. With my other hand, I splashed the sacred water from my flask onto 2 of the partly absorbed hikers. I slashed with my ritual knife, cutting away the wooden tendrils that held them. "Run!" I shouted at the 2 young students I'd managed to free. They stumbled away, dazed, but alive. The professor and the other student were already too far gone, too deeply merged with the forest entity. As the first light of dawn started to break through the trees, the creatures began to retreat. Sunlight seemed to hurt them, forcing them back underground and into the shadows between trees. But before they disappeared completely, one last tendril shot out, wrapping around my left arm. Pain, like I'd never felt before, shot through me as thin root fibers burrowed into my skin and muscle. I screamed and fell to my knees, using the last of the flare's fire to burn the tendril away. The sun rose higher, and suddenly the forest was just a forest again. Birds cautiously began to sing. The unnatural fog lifted. If not for my injured arm and the two traumatized students sitting nearby, it might have all seemed like a bad dream. Later, doctors couldn't explain what was happening to my arm. Where the roots had touched me, strange patterns of fungus grew beneath my skin. No medicine could kill it. No surgeon would cut it out. The two students we rescued got better physically, but strange things happened around them. Plants grew too, passed near them. Flowers bloomed out of season when they walked by. They never spoke about what happened to them inside the root creature. I never went back to that clearing. I built a small cabin, far from the old-growth forest, and lived there alone. Every full moon, my arm burns and I feel a pull, a call to return to the ancient grove. Sometimes I see the root figures watching my cabin from the edge of the woods. Know the forest entity is still there, sleeping but not dead, waiting for someone else to wander too deep, to disturb its ancient rest. The tribes were right all along. There are older things than trees in those woods, and I pray no one ever wakes them again. My name is Michael Donovan. I work as a park ranger at Great Smoky Mountains National Park. This morning, I was walking on the trail as the sun was coming up. There was lots of fog in the air. It looked pretty, swirling around the old trees like dancing ghosts. I love taking walks in the early morning. The birds were singing and everything was peaceful. But then something weird happened. As I walked past some trees covered in strange, spotty green stuff growing in perfect patterns, the birds suddenly stopped singing, all of them, all at once. The silence gave me goosebumps. That's odd, I said to myself. I kept walking, but I noticed the fog was getting thicker around some really old chestnut trees. These trees were special because most of their kind died from a sickness many years ago. Then I saw something else strange. There was a beautiful valley that should have been full of deer and other animals. It had plenty of food, water, and places to hide. But no animals were there. It was like they were avoiding it on purpose. As I took a few steps toward the empty valley, something impossible happened. The air suddenly got super cold, like stepping from summer into winter in just a few steps. The temperature dropped at least 20 degrees, but I hadn't climbed any higher up the mountain. I pulled out my compass, which helps show which way is north. The needle started spinning around crazily, pointing in different directions every second. My GPS gadget was acting weird too, showing impossible locations that kept changing. What's going on here, I wondered. Then I noticed some rocks arranged in circles throughout the area. They weren't placed randomly like nature does things. They looked like someone had put them there on purpose, but they were covered in moss and looked very, very old. The morning sun should have burned away the fog by now, but instead it got thicker. It formed what looked like a wall around the valley, so thick I couldn't see through it. I saw a couple of hikers coming down the trail. They looked scared. "Is everything okay?" I asked them. "Did you hear that?" the woman asked me. "Hear what?" "Children laughing," the man said. "Like kids playing games, but we looked everywhere and couldn't find anyone." After they left, I decided to check out where they heard the laughing sounds. Near the thickest fog, I found something on the ground that made me stop and stare. Footprints, but not normal ones. They weren't human or any animal I knew. They had 6 toes and were spaced weirdly. The strangest part was that they appeared out of nowhere, continued for about 15 feet, then just stopped, like whatever made them appeared out of thin air. Walked a bit, then vanished. I started writing everything down in my notebook. I used to be a scientist before I became a park ranger. I studied old human settlements and cultures. 3 years ago, I wrote some papers about ancient people living in these mountains long before anyone thought humans were here. My fellow scientists made fun of me and said my ideas were crazy. After that, my wife left me too, so I came here to hide and start over. Now, looking at these impossible footprints and feeling the unnatural cold, I wondered if maybe I had been right all along. I heard a sound behind me and turned around. A skinny teenager in hiking clothes was watching me. "You must be Jamie Hawkins," I said, recognizing him. "My new guide," he nodded. "Ranger Donovan. You shouldn't be out here alone." "I'm not alone anymore," I said with a smile. "You're early. We weren't supposed to start until tomorrow." Jamie shifted uncomfortably. "My granny said I should find you today. Said you might need help." "Your granny? She knows things," he said simply. "My family's been in these mountains for 9 generations. We know when something ain't right." I pulled out my grandfather's old silver pocket watch. It was just past 7 a.m. "Did your granny say why I might need help today?" I asked. Jamie stared at my watch. "That's real silver, isn't it?" "Good. You'll need it." He pointed to the foggy valley. "The old people are restless, and the summer solstice is coming." The old people? Those who were here before, who are still here? Jamie looked at me with eyes that seemed too old for his young face. "My granny says they're waking up and they're hungry." I felt a chill down my spine. I looked again at the strange 6-toed footprints, then back at Jamie. "Show me," I said. As we walked toward the fog, I thought about the dreams I'd been having since I came here. Dreams where I walked through ancient versions of these forests, guided by shapes I could never quite see clearly, hidden in fog just like this. I also thought about the secret map I'd been making in my cabin, tracking people who had disappeared in the park over many years. I found a pattern that repeated every 50 years, and that pattern was about to peak again in just 2 days, on the summer solstice. Jamie walked ahead of me on a path I didn't know existed. It wasn't on any official park map, just a narrow track, worn into the ground by years of secret use. "My family has always used these trails," Jamie said quietly. "They don't put them on your maps." The fog stayed thick around us. I checked my watch again. 8:30 a.m. now, and the sun should have burned away this mist hours ago. But it hung around us, sometimes so thick I could barely see Jamie just 10 feet ahead of me. "There's something I need to show you," Jamie said. "Some hikers set up camp about a mile from here 3 days ago. They haven't checked out yet. Maybe they're just staying longer than planned," I said. Jamie shook his head. "No one stays in Waiting Wood overnight, not if they know better." We walked in silence after that. The forest felt wrong, too quiet. I'm used to hearing squirrels running through leaves, birds calling to each other, insects buzzing. But here, there was nothing except the sound of our boots on the dirt. "Stop," Jamie whispered suddenly, putting his arm out to block my path. "Listen." I held my breath and listened hard. At first I heard nothing. Then I caught it. A faint sound, like someone talking far away. The voices were too distant to make out words. "Radio signals," I suggested. "Out here? No reception for miles," Jamie replied. "Besides, listen closer. It sounds old." He was right. There was something odd about the sound. It reminded me of those scratchy recordings from the 1930s. The voices faded away before I could understand anything. "Let's keep moving," I said, trying to sound calmer than I felt. 15 minutes later, we found the campsite. Everything looked wrong from the moment we spotted the bright blue tents through the trees. "Hello? Park Ranger," I called out. No answer. As we got closer, I could see why. The camp was empty, but not in a normal way. 2 tents were still set up. A small camp stove sat on a flat rock with a half-cooked pot of beans, now cold and crusty. Paper plates with half-eaten hot dogs lay on the ground. 3 folding chairs were arranged around a cold fire pit. It looked like everyone had just vanished in the middle of dinner. "This isn't right," I said, moving closer. "People don't just leave all their gear behind." Jamie stayed at the edge of the clearing, eyes darting around nervously. "Check the tents," he said, "but be careful." I approached the first tent carefully. The zipper was open. Inside I found sleeping bags, backpacks, everything a hiker would need. A book lay open, face down, like someone had just put it down for a moment. I checked the second tent and gasped. "Jamie, come look at this." He came over, reluctantly. The second tent was slashed from the inside out, like someone had desperately cut their way out. But there was no blood, no signs of a fight. What could make someone do this? I wondered out loud. Jamie just shook his head, backing away from the tent. I noticed something strange on the fabric, a shiny substance that caught the light. I took out my small field microscope from my pack and examined it. "This is weird," I said. "It looks like frozen tears, crystallized somehow." I tried the radio to call for backup, but all I got was static with occasional bursts of voices. The same old-timey voices we'd heard earlier. One voice suddenly came through clearer than the others, returning to base camp. "The fog is getting too thick to continue mapping the valley. Dr. Larson thinks we should try again tomorrow when..." The transmission cut off abruptly. "That survey team disappeared in 1972, Jamie said quietly. "What? How do you know that?" "My uncle was supposed to be their guide. He refused because of the time of year. They went anyway. 7 people, never found." A chill ran down my back. I tried the radio again and heard something even more disturbing. My own voice. "Can't believe what we're seeing. The stones are moving. Jamie, get back from there. The mist is..." I dropped the radio like it had burned me. That was my voice, talking about something that hadn't happened yet. I pulled out my digital camera and started taking pictures of the campsite. When I checked the preview screen, I nearly dropped the camera too. In the background of one photo, barely visible in the mist, was a face. Not human. The eyes were too large, the face too long, and it seemed to be looking right at the camera. And tin showed Jamie. His face went pale. "We need to leave," he said. "Now. We can't just leave. These people might need help." Jamie pointed at the trees around the campsite. I hadn't noticed before, but they all had strange symbols carved into their trunks, old carvings, the edges grown over with bark. My grandfather's notes mentioned symbols like these, I said, running my fingers over the carvings. "He said they were pre-Cherokee, from people who lived here thousands of years ago. The old people," Jamie said, "those who wait in the mist." I looked down and noticed something else strange. Mushrooms and other fungi were growing around the campsite in perfect circles. I was sure they hadn't been there when we first arrived. My watch had stopped at 8:47. My phone was dead, even though I'd charged it fully before leaving this morning. Jamie checked his phone, also dead. "The batteries drain fast here," he said. "Metal gets eaten away too. That's why the silver is important. They don't like silver." "Who doesn't like silver?" "Before," Jamie could answer, "we heard movement in the bushes. We both turned quickly. A man stumbled out of the fog. He wore hiking clothes, muddied and torn. One of the missing campers. 'Sir, are you okay?' I rushed toward him. The man didn't respond. He just kept walking with a strange, stiff gait. When he got closer, I could see something was very wrong. His eyes were clouded over with a milky white film. He opened his mouth, but the sounds that came out weren't English or any language I recognized. "Sir, do you need medical attention?" I reached for him, but Jamie pulled me back. "Don't touch him," Jamie warned. The hiker stopped, his head turning slowly toward us. He lifted a hand, pointing deeper into the misty valley. Then he spoke one clear English word: "Waiting." What happened next will haunt me forever. The man's skin began to change before our eyes. It wrinkled and aged rapidly, like someone had pressed fast forward on his life. His hair turned white, then began falling out. His body seemed to shrink and twist. Jamie and I backed away in horror. Within minutes, the hiker had aged decades. Then, as we watched, unable to look away, he crumbled, literally turned to dust that fell into a pile inside his now empty clothes. Jamie grabbed my arm. "We have to go now." But I couldn't move. My scientific mind was trying to make sense of what I'd just seen. It was impossible. People don't just turn to dust. "The others will be the same if we find them," Jamie said. "They've been taken. The old people need them for the solstice." "Taken where?" I managed to ask. Jamie pointed toward the thickest part of the mist. "There, where the veil is thinnest." I found myself nodding. Against all logic, I believed him. After what I'd just seen, how could I not? "We need to go back," Jamie insisted. "Get help, Silver, protection." "Will that really help?" I asked. "No," Jamie admitted, "but it'll make dying less painful if they take us too." With those comforting words, we started back down the trail. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched from the mist, at every step, and I couldn't get the image of that man turning to dust out of my head. What waited for us in the mist was beyond my understanding. But I knew one thing for certain: my grandfather's old stories, the ones that got me laughed out of academia, weren't stories at all. They were warnings. The walk back from the campsite was harder than the walk in. The fog got so thick at times I could barely see my own feet. Jamie stayed close, his eyes constantly scanning the trees around us. "We're not alone," he whispered at one point. I stopped and listened. At first, I heard nothing. Then I caught it. A soft sound like twigs snapping, but with a rhythm to it. Like footsteps, but not quite. "What is that?" I asked, keeping my voice low. Jamie just shook his head, pulling me forward. "Don't stop. Don't look back." But I couldn't help it. I turned to look behind us. The fog shifted and swirled about 50 feet back. For a second, I thought I saw something, a tall, thin shape moving between the trees. When I blinked, it was gone. "Did you see that?" I asked. "Keep walking," Jamie said, his voice tight with fear. We picked up our pace, almost jogging. Now, the strange footsteps behind us sped up too. Suddenly, Jamie stopped and pulled me down behind a fallen tree. We crouched there, barely breathing. The footsteps got closer, then stopped. The fog around us thickened, pressing in like a living thing. That's when I saw it clearly for the first time. A figure stepped out of the mist, about 30 feet away. It was tall, at least 7 feet, and impossibly thin. Its arms and legs were too long, like a daddy long-legged spider. Its skin wasn't skin at all, but looked like tree bark, rough and dark. I started to stand up for a better look, but Jamie yanked me back down. "Don't move," he whispered, his mouth right against my ear. "Don't even breathe loud." The creature turned its head slowly, scanning the forest. I realized with a jolt that it had no face, just a smooth area where a face should be, with 2 holes filled with swirling mist where eyes should be. It made a sound then, a perfect bird call, a whippoorwill, then another bird call, then another. But there was something wrong about the sounds. They had patterns to them, like words in a strange language. Jamie seemed to be listening hard. His eyes widened. "What is it saying?" I whispered. "Not saying. Searching," he replied, barely audible. "Calling the others." As if on cue, bird calls came from all directions around us. Not birds at all, but more of these creatures talking to each other. The one we could see moved again. It reached out one long arm and touched a tree. The bark where it touched turned white with frost, despite the summer heat. The creature leaned its head against the tree, and I got the crazy idea it was listening to the tree itself. Then it did something I still can't explain. It seemed to melt into the tree, its bark-like skin blending with the actual bark until I couldn't tell where the creature ended and the tree began. Within seconds, it had vanished completely. We stayed frozen behind the log for what felt like hours, but was probably just minutes. Finally, Jamie touched my arm. "We need to move, now, while they're distracted." "What were those things?" I asked as we crept forward. "The old people. The ones who were here first," Jamie said. "The ones who never left." A deer stepped into our path suddenly. It stood perfectly still, staring at us with glassy eyes. Then another deer appeared, and another. Soon there were 5 deer blocking the path, all standing unnaturally still. "They're using the animals," Jamie whispered, watching through their eyes. As one, the deer turned their heads, looking to our right. Jamie cursed under his breath. "They're herding us," he said. "They want us to go that way." "So we go the opposite way," I said. Jamie shook his head. "No, they're smarter than that. If they're obviously herding us one way, it's because they want us to think we're outsmarting them by going the other way. So what do? We go straight through them." Before I could argue, Jamie picked up a heavy stick and ran straight at the deer, yelling at the top of his lungs. I had no choice but to follow him. The deer scattered, but not like normal deer. They moved in perfect unison, like soldiers following orders. As we passed where they had been standing, I felt the temperature drop again. "Run faster," Jamie shouted. I ran as hard as I could. The fog swirled around us, sometimes so thick I couldn't see where I was going. I kept my eyes on Jamie's back, trusting him to find the way. A bird swooped down at my head, a raven, its eyes clouded white like the hikers had been. Then another bird attacked, and another. Soon we were surrounded by birds, all diving at us. "They're trying to drive us back," Jamie yelled, swatting at the birds with his stick. I pulled my jacket up over my head and kept running. Sharp beaks pecked at my hands and face. I felt blood trickling down my cheek. Then, as suddenly as it started, the attack stopped. The birds flew away all at once, like someone had called them back. We slowed to a stop, both of us breathing hard. My heart was pounding so loudly I was sure those things could hear it. "Are we safe?" I gasped. Jamie looked around nervously. "No, but I think we're back on my family's land. They don't come here often." I wiped blood from my face. "Why not?" "Protection," he said simply, pointing to the trees. I hadn't noticed before, but small handmade dolls hung from the branches of trees all around us. They were made of twigs, leaves, and what looked like human hair. "My granny makes a new one every month," Jamie explained. "Old magic. They don't like it." "Those things, they control the animals somehow." Jamie nodded. "The deer, the birds, even the insects, they're all eyes for the old people. They see through them." I took out my grandfather's watch again. The hands were spinning backward now, moving faster and faster. "That's not possible," I said. "Time works different near them," Jamie said, eyeing the watch. "They're not part of our world, not really. They slip in and out." "Like the tracks that appear and disappear," I said, thinking out loud. "And the hiker who turned to dust." "They take people sometimes," Jamie said. "Keep them elsewhere. Sometimes they send them back, but time passes differently there. A day for us might be years for them." "Why? Why take people at all?" Jamie hesitated. "Granny says they need us. Need something in our blood. She wouldn't tell me more than that." We started walking again, more slowly now. The fog was thinning out a little. I could see blue sky in patches overhead. "Those symbols on the trees back at the campsite," I said. "I've seen them before in my grandfather's notes. He disappeared in these mountains in 1935. Jamie gave me a long look. "Donovan? Was his name William Donovan?" I stopped walking. "Yes. How did you know that?" "My granny has a picture of him. He stayed with our family for a while before he vanished." My mind was spinning with questions, but before I could ask anything else, I heard something that made my blood freeze. My grandfather's voice, clear as day, coming from somewhere in the mist ahead of us. "Michael," the voice called. "Michael, I've been waiting for you." Jamie grabbed my arm. "That's not your grandfather. Don't listen." But I couldn't help it. It was his voice, exactly as I remembered it from my childhood. Before I knew what I was doing, I had pulled away from Jamie and was walking toward the voice. "Michael, I need your help." My grandfather's voice called again. "Donovan, stop!" Jamie shouted. "It's a trick!" Part of me knew he was right. My grandfather had been gone for decades, but another part of me had to know, had to see. I pushed through a thick curtain of fog into a small clearing. In the center stood a stone circle, larger and more complete than any I'd seen so far. And In the middle of the circle, my grandfather. He looked exactly as he did in the last photo taken of him, right before his expedition into these mountains. Same clothes, same beard, same kind eyes. "Michael," he said, smiling, "you got my message." Jamie burst into the clearing behind me. "Donovan, that's not—" He stopped mid-sentence. The thing that looked like my grandfather turned to him, still smiling. "Jamie Hawkins," it said in my grandfather's voice. "Your grandmother will be so disappointed." Jamie took a step back. "We need to go, now!" But I couldn't move. The thing wearing my grandfather's face came closer. "Michael, I have so much to show you," it said. "So much to teach you." It reached out a hand to me, and for a second it flickered like a bad TV signal. For just a moment, I saw what was really there. One of the tall, bark-skinned creatures. Then it was my grandfather again. "The solstice is coming," it said. "We need you, like we needed him." Its eyes began to fill with swirling mist. I backed away slowly. "You're not my grandfather." It smiled wider, showing teeth that were suddenly too sharp to be human. "Part of me is," it said. "He's still here. We keep parts of everyone we take." Jamie grabbed a handful of dirt from his pocket and threw it at the creature. The dirt sparkled with tiny pieces of silver. Where it touched the thing, its skin sizzled and smoked. The illusion broke completely. My grandfather's image melted away, revealing the tall, bark-skinned entity. It let out a terrible scream, not a human sound at all, but like wood splintering and cracking. "Run!" Jamie yelled, throwing another handful of silver-laced dirt at the creature. We ran. Behind us, more of those awful, splintering screams echoed through the forest. The fog closed in again, thick and disorienting. Bird calls. The creature's language came from all sides. "They know we're here now," Jamie panted as we ran. "They'll be watching for us." "What do they want?" I gasped. "You!" Jamie said grimly. "They want you!" We finally made it back to Jamie's family home, just as the sun was setting. It was a small cabin tucked away in a valley I never knew existed, even though I'd hiked these mountains for months. "Granny!" Jamie called as we approached. "We need help!" An old woman came out onto the porch. She was tiny, barely 5 feet tall, with silver hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her eyes were sharp and clear, taking in my scratched face and torn ranger uniform with one quick glance. "So they found you," she said simply. It wasn't a question. "They took his shape," Jamie told her, pointing at me. "His grandfather." The old woman's eyes widened slightly. She looked at me more carefully. "You're William's boy?" she asked. "His grandson," I corrected her. "Michael Donovan." She nodded slowly. "You have his eyes. Come inside, both of you. It's not safe out here after dark." The cabin was warm and smelled like herbs and wood smoke. A fire crackled in a stone fireplace. The walls were lined with shelves of old books, dried plants, and glass jars filled with things I couldn't identify. "Sit," she ordered, pointing to chairs at a wooden table. "Jamie, get the tea." Jamie moved to a shelf and took down a wooden box. He carefully measured dried leaves into a teapot. "What did you see out there?" the old woman asked me. I told her everything. The tracks, the campsite, the hiker turning to dust, and finally the bark-skinned creatures and the thing that looked like my grandfather. She listened without interrupting, her face giving nothing away. When I finished, she nodded as if I'd confirmed something she already knew. "They're getting ready," she said. "The solstice is tomorrow night." "What happens on the solstice?" I asked. "The veil gets thin," she replied. "Thin enough for them to come through completely. Thin enough to take what they need." Jamie placed 3 steaming cups on the table. The tea was dark green and smelled strange, but not unpleasant. "Drink," the old woman said. "It will help you see clearly." I hesitated, but Jamie was already drinking his. I took a small sip. It tasted bitter, but not terrible. "My name is Ruth." "Hawkins," the old woman said. "I knew your grandfather well." "You did? How?" "He stayed with us for almost a year, studying the old people, writing in his journals." My heart beat faster. His journals, do you have them? She shook her head. He took them with him the day he went into the mist. But he left something here, something for safekeeping. Ruth stood and went to an old trunk in the corner. She unlocked it with a key she wore around her neck and took out a small wooden box. When she placed it on the table in front of me, I felt a strange tingle in my fingers. He said, if anyone with Donovan blood ever came looking, I should give them this. I opened the box carefully. Inside was a small leather pouch and a folded piece of paper yellowed with age. I unfolded the paper first. It was a map, hand-drawn, showing parts of the park I recognized and other areas I'd never seen on any official map. Circles were drawn at various points, with dates written beside them. The circles, Ruth explained, mark the places where the veil is thinnest, where people have vanished. I recognized some of the dates from my own research into disappearances, but there were many more I hadn't known about. And this? I asked, picking up the leather pouch. Protection, she said. Open it. Inside was a handful of what looked like dried berries, some small bones, and a piece of silver shaped like a tree, mountain ash berries collected under a full moon, bones from a white rabbit, and silver blessed by 7 generations of Hawkins women, Ruth said. Your grandfather understood. He learned our ways. Did he? Did they take him? I asked, my voice breaking slightly. Ruth was quiet for a long moment. Yes and no, she finally said. What does that mean? Drink your tea, she said instead of answering. Then I'll explain. I drank more of the bitter tea. As I did, I noticed the room starting to look different. Colors became more vivid. The fire in the fireplace seemed to move in slow motion. I could hear the wood breathing as it burned. What's happening? I asked, putting down the cup. The tea helps you see things as they really are, Jamie explained. Granny makes it from plants that only grow near the stone circles. Ruth nodded. The old people have been here since before time began. They're not evil, not exactly. They're guardians, protectors of the forest, of the thin places between worlds. Thin places? Places where our world touches others, she said. The old people watch these boundaries, make sure nothing crosses. That shouldn't. My head was swimming with questions, but the tea was making it hard to focus. But why do they take people? I managed to ask. They need us, Ruth said simply. Human blood carries something they lost long ago, something they need to remain in our world. They drink blood? I asked, horrified. Ruth shook her head. No, they preserve people. Keep them. Use their life force to maintain the boundaries. Like batteries, Jamie added. That's horrible, I said. It's necessary, Ruth countered. If the boundaries fail, things would come through. Things far worse than the old people. I thought about the hiker turning to dust before our eyes. And my grandfather, Ruth sighed. William was special. The old people recognized something in him. They didn't just take him, they made him one of them. The room seemed to spin around me. What? That thing you saw that looked like your grandfather? It wasn't just pretending. Part of William is still in there. He became a bridge between our world and theirs. I remembered the creature's words. Part of me is. He's still here. We keep parts of everyone we take. Why are you telling me this? I asked, a horrible suspicion forming in my mind. Ruth and Jamie exchanged a look. Because you're his blood, Ruth said. You carry the same gift. The old people want you for the same reason they wanted him. They want to make me like them? I felt sick. They need you, Ruth said. The boundaries are failing. More and more creatures are slipping through. Your grandfather can't hold them back alone anymore. I stood up, nearly knocking over my chair. No, this is crazy. I need to call for backup. Get a search team for those missing hikers. The hikers are already gone, Jamie said quietly. Nothing can help them now. The solstice is tomorrow night, Ruth said. The veil will be at its thinnest. If the old people can't strengthen the boundaries, we're all in danger. What kind of danger? I demanded. The kind that ends worlds, she said simply. I looked down at the map, at the protection pouch, at my grandfather's watch still showing impossible time. Part of me wanted to run away, pretend none of this was happening, but a deeper part knew Ruth was telling the truth. There has to be another way, I said. Ruth nodded slowly. There might be. Your grandfather found something important. He hid it near the great stone circle at the heart of Waiting Wood. What did he find? A way to strengthen the boundaries without sacrifice, she said. A ritual that could buy us another 50 years. Hope flared in my chest. Then we need to find it. That's why the old people want you, Jamie said. They know you might complete what your grandfather started. They'd rather have you join them than risk losing their way of life. Ruth took my hands in hers. Her skin was dry and warm. Listen to me, Michael. Going back to Waiting Wood on the solstice is dangerous. The old people will try to take you, but if you can find what William hid, you might save many lives. How will I know what I'm looking for? I asked. Ruth pressed my grandfather's watch into my palm. This will guide you. It's connected to him, to the magic of the old people. It will lead you where you need to go. I looked at the watch. The hands were moving normally again, but they weren't showing the correct time. They pointed to 11:35. What does it mean? I asked. Coordinates, Jamie said. 35 degrees, 11 minutes north, the great stone circle. I put the watch in my pocket along with the protection pouch. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of everything. The tea was making the edges of my vision shimmer and glow. Get some sleep, Ruth said gently. Tomorrow you'll need all your strength. She showed me to a small room with a narrow bed. As I laid down, exhaustion hit me like a wave. The last thing I remember was looking out the window at the mist gathering in the trees, wondering if my grandfather was out there watching me, and wondering if tomorrow night I'd be joining him. I woke up to the sound of birds singing outside the window. For a moment, I thought I was back in my ranger cabin, that everything that happened yesterday was just a bad dream. Then I felt the scratches on my face from the birds' attack, and reality came crashing back. Today was the solstice, the longest day of the year, and possibly my last day as Michael Donovan. I got up and found fresh clothes laid out for me. Not my ranger uniform, but sturdy hiking clothes that looked handmade. When I went into the main room, Ruth was sitting at the table grinding herbs with a stone mortar and pestle. "Good morning," she said without looking up. "Jamie is out checking the boundary markers. He'll be back soon." I sat down across from her. "I've been thinking about what you told me last night, and I still don't understand why it has to be me. Why my family?" Ruth stopped grinding and looked at me. "Some bloodlines carry old magic. Your grandfather had it. You have it too." "I don't feel magical," I said. She smiled slightly. "Magic isn't about feelings. It's about bloodlines and choices. Your ancestors made certain choices long ago. Now you carry the consequences." "What choices?" Before she could answer, the door opened and Jamie came in. He looked tired and worried. "The mist is spreading," he said. "It's all over the valley now. And the animals are acting strange, moving in groups, watching the trails." Ruth nodded, as if this was expected. "They're getting ready, gathering their strength." She handed me a small leather bag. "Eat something, then put these on your eyes." Inside were small green leaves that smelled sharp and clean. "Mountain mint," she explained. "It will help you see through their illusions." I ate a simple breakfast of oatmeal and dried fruit while Ruth prepared more tea. This one tasted better than last night's brew. "What's the plan?" I asked as I finished. "Eating. You and Jamie will go to the Great Stone Circle," Ruth said. "Find what your grandfather hid. Complete his work if you can. And if we can't," Ruth didn't answer. She didn't need to. The options were clear: succeed, die, or become like my grandfather, part of the old people forever. Jamie laid a hand-drawn map on the table. We'll take the North Ridge Trail. It's longer but safer. The old people don't like heights. I took out my grandfather's watch. The hands were spinning slowly clockwise now. We're getting closer to whatever it's pointing to, Jamie said. When we reach the right spot, the hands will stop. We packed quickly. Water, food, Ruth's herbs and protections, my grandfather's map, and a couple of old iron knives that Jamie said would help against the old people. Silver burns them, iron weakens them, he explained. They're creatures of wood and mist. Metal is their enemy. Before we left, Ruth took my hands in hers. Listen carefully, Michael. No matter what you see or hear out there, trust your blood. It knows the truth, my blood. The part of you that's connected to your grandfather, to the old magic. It will guide you when nothing else can. I nodded, not really understanding but willing to believe. The day was unnaturally still as we set out. No wind, no animal sounds except for occasional bird calls that made Jamie tense up each time. They're tracking us, he said, but they won't attack in daylight. They're stronger in the dark and mist. We hiked for hours, climbing higher, into the mountains. The air got cooler, but I was sweating from nerves and exertion. My grandfather's watch grew warmer in my pocket, like it was coming alive. Around mid-afternoon, we reached a high ridge. From there, we could see for miles. The valley below was completely covered in mist, even though the day was clear and sunny. Where we stood, there, Jamie said, pointing to a dark patch in the center of the mist. That's Waiting Wood. The great stone circle is in the heart of it. I took out the watch again. The hands had stopped spinning and were pointing directly at the dark patch. That's where we need to go, I said. Jamie nodded grimly. We should get there just before sunset. The veil starts thinning as the sun goes down. We began our descent from the ridge, working our way down toward the mist-filled valley. With each step downward, I felt a strange pulling sensation in my chest, like something was tugging on an invisible string connected to my heart. Do you feel that? I asked Jamie. Feel what? Like something's pulling on me, calling me. Jamie's face darkened. That's them. They're calling to your blood. The closer we get, the stronger it will be. He was right. As we got closer to the mist, the pulling sensation grew stronger, and I started hearing voices, whispers just at the edge of my hearing. Sometimes they sounded like my grandfather, sometimes like my ex-wife, sometimes like people I'd never met, but somehow knew. Put the mint leaves on your eyes, Jamie reminded me. I took out the leaves Ruth had given me and rubbed them gently over my closed eyelids. The sharp, clean smell cleared my head, and the voices faded. The sun was getting low in the sky when we reached the edge of the mist. It stood before us like a wall, unnaturally solid and white. Once we go in, they'll know exactly where we are, Jamie warned. We'll need to move fast. I nodded, my mouth too dry to speak. We both took deep breaths and stepped into the mist. Instantly, the world changed. The temperature dropped 20 degrees. Sounds became muffled. The mist swirled around us, sometimes so thick I could barely see Jamie right beside me. Stay close, he whispered. We moved forward slowly, following the pull in my chest and the direction of the watch hands. The trees around us were ancient and twisted, their bark covered in the same strange symbols we'd seen at the campsite. We're in their territory now, Jamie said. Whatever happens, don't stop moving toward the circle. The bird calls started again, that strange language of the old people. They seemed to come from all directions, surrounding us. Then the mist ahead of us shifted, and a figure stepped out. My ex-wife, looking exactly as she had the day she left me. Michael, she said softly, I've missed you so much. The mint leaves. Help me see the truth. Around the edges of her form, I could see the tall, bark-skinned shape of one of the old people. You're not real, I said, gripping the iron knife. The thing wearing my ex-wife's face smiled too widely, showing teeth that were suddenly sharp and wooden. "We can be together again," it said, its voice changing to a splintering sound. "Just come with me." Jamie threw something from his pocket, more of the silver-laced dirt. It scattered in the air, and where it touched the creature, its disguise fell away completely. It shrieked that awful wooden sound and backed away. We pushed forward, moving faster now. More figures appeared in the mist, people from my past, hikers I'd rescued, even my parents. All of them calling to me, all of them not quite right. "Ignore them," Jamie said. "They're trying to slow us down." The pull in my chest was getting stronger, almost painful now. The watch in my pocket was so hot, it felt like it might burn through. My clothes. Finally, we broke through into a large clearing. In the center stood a perfect circle of massive stones, each one twice as tall as a man. They looked impossibly old, their surfaces covered in spiraling patterns and symbols I recognized from my grandfather's notes. The mist was thinner here, and I could see the sky above, deep purple with the first stars appearing. The sun was almost gone. "The solstice," Jamie breathed. "It's starting." As if on cue, the stones began to glow faintly, the patterns lighting up with a blue-white light. The pull in my chest was now centered on the middle of the circle. "There," I said, pointing. "Whatever we're looking for is in there." We stepped into the circle of stones. Instantly, the bird calls stopped. The world went completely silent, as if we'd stepped into a vacuum. In the center of the circle was a flat stone that looked like an altar. On top of it lay a small wooden box, similar to the one Ruth had given me but older, weathered by decades of exposure. "Is that it?" Jamie asked. Before I could answer, mist began pouring into the circle between the stones. It gathered and thickened, taking shape, dozens of the bark-skinned creatures surrounding us. They made no sound, just watched us with their mist-filled eyes. One stepped forward. As it moved, its form shifted, becoming more human-like, more familiar. My grandfather. This time, even with the mint leaves, I couldn't see through the disguise. He looked solid, real, exactly as I remembered him from my childhood, Michael, he said, his voice normal and warm. "You found it." "Grandfather," I whispered, not trusting my eyes. "Yes and no," he said with a sad smile. "Part of me is still William Donovan. Part of me is something else now." Jamie gripped my arm. "Be careful," he warned. My grandfather, or the thing that had once been him, gestured to the box on the altar. "You need to open it," he said. "Finish what I started." "What's inside?" I asked. "A choice," he replied. "The same choice I faced 50 years ago." I stepped toward the altar, but Jamie pulled me back. "Wait," he said. "Something's wrong." I looked more closely at Jamie. There was something different about his eyes. They seemed older, wiser than before. "Jamie." He smiled, but it wasn't Jamie's smile. It was colder, calculated. "My family has served the old people for generations," he said. "Did you really think I brought you here to stop them?" My blood ran cold. "You're working with them." "Someone has to." "Help them choose," Jamie said. "My grandmother, her mother before her, all the way back. We helped find the right people, people with the right blood." "People like me," I said, the truth dawning on me. "People like you," Jamie agreed. "I'm sorry, Michael, but this is how it has to be." My grandfather stepped closer. "He's right. The boundaries must be maintained. We need new blood, your blood." "And if I refuse?" "Then the boundaries fail," my grandfather said simply. "And what comes through will destroy everything." The creature that looked like my grandfather held out his hand. "Join us, Michael. Become part of something ancient and powerful. Help us protect this world from what lies beyond." I looked at the box on the altar, then at Jamie's betrayal-filled eyes, then at my grandfather's outstretched hand. "What did you find?" I asked my grandfather. "What's really in that box?" Something flickered in his eyes, a moment of the real. William Donovan shining through truth, he whispered. I found the truth. In that moment I remembered Ruth's words. Trust your blood, it knows the truth. I lunged forward, pushing past Jamie, and grabbed the box from the altar. The old people surged forward, but stopped short of touching me. The box seemed to repel them. With shaking hands, I opened it. Inside was a single piece of silver, shaped like a tree, identical to the one in the pouch Ruth had given me, and beneath it a small leather-bound book. I opened the book. It was my grandfather's handwriting. The first page read, "The old people are not guardians, they are prisoners. The stones do not keep things out, they keep these things in." My grandfather's face contorted with rage. "No!" he shouted, his voice splintering into that inhuman sound. "Close it!" But I kept reading, out loud now. They need human blood not to protect boundaries, but to escape them. Each sacrifice weakens the prison that has held them for millennia. Jamie tried to grab the book from me, but I pushed him away. The knowledge gave me strength. The true guardians are humans with the old blood, our blood. We are the key to strengthening the prison, not weakening it. As I read these words, the silver tree in the box began to glow. I picked it up and it burned hot in my palm, but I didn't drop it. With silver blessed by true intention, speak these words at the solstice. My grandfather was changing now, his human form melting away to reveal the tall, bark-skinned creature beneath. All around the circle, the old people were shrieking, that awful splintering sound, moving closer but unable to touch me. I read the words my grandfather had written, bound by silver, bound by blood, return to prison, return to wood. What walks between must walk no more. I seal the veil, I lock the door. As I spoke the final word, the silver tree in my hand burst into blinding light. The trees on the hills around us all seemed to glow in response. The old people screamed, their bodies seeming to stretch and distort. Jamie collapsed to his knees, clutching his head. My grandfather's true form reached for me one last time. "You don't understand what you're doing," he said, his voice a mixture of human and that splintering sound. "They'll come through eventually, without us to guard the way. We'll find another way," I said firmly, "one that doesn't require sacrifices." The silver tree in my hand pulsed, and the stone circle answered with light. The old people were being pulled back, their bodies stretching like taffy, snapping back toward the stones themselves. "The trees," my grandfather gasped. "They were always the true circle, the true prison." With those words, his form was sucked into the nearest stone, vanishing completely. All around me, the other old people were being pulled into the stones, their wooden screams fading to nothing. Jamie lay on the ground, shaking. I knelt beside him. "Jamie, are you okay?" He looked up at me, his eyes clear and young again. What happened?" "They were controlling you," I said, "using your family." The silver tree had stopped glowing, but still felt warm in my hand. The stones of the circle now looked like ordinary rocks, no sign of the glowing patterns or the old people. The mist was fading too, revealing a clear night sky packed with stars. "Is it over?" Jamie asked. I looked at my grandfather's book, thumbing through the pages. "Not forever," I said. "Just for now. The prison is sealed again, but it will weaken over time. In 50 years, another Donovan will need to come," Jamie finished. We walked out of the stone circle together. The forest felt different now, lighter somehow, free of the weight that had pressed down on it. My grandfather's watch ticked normally in my pocket. The birds sang ordinary evening songs. The world had changed, but was putting itself back in order. As we hiked back toward Ruth's cabin, I thought about what I had learned. The old people weren't guardians after all, but ancient prisoners trying to escape. My family's blood was the key, not to help them, but to keep them contained. I had a lot to write down, a lot to preserve for the next Donovan who would face this challenge 50 years from now. Maybe my own child or grandchild. For now, though, I was still just Michael Donovan, park ranger, a man who had faced impossible things and lived to tell about it, though I knew I would never tell this particular story. Some secrets need to stay hidden in the mist. When we reached Ruth's cabin, she was waiting on the porch. She took one look at us and nodded. "You did it," she said. It wasn't a question. "Why didn't you tell me the truth?" I asked her. "About what?" They really were. "Some truths can only be discovered, not told," she said. "If I had told you, you might not have believed. You needed to see for yourself." I held up my grandfather's book. "I'll need to learn everything in here. Understand it. Pass it on," Ruth smiled. "That's what guardians do." Jamie looked ashamed. "Granny, I betrayed him. I was helping them." Ruth pulled him into a hug. "It wasn't you, child. They've been using our family for generations. But that's over now." I hoped she was right. I hoped it was truly over, at least for the next 50 years. As I sat by Ruth's fire that night, reading my grandfather's journal and making notes of my own, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Not by the old people, they were safely locked away again, by something else, something beyond the boundaries that the old people had been trying to escape to, something that would be waiting 50 years from now when the circle weakened again. Closed the journal and looked at the silver tree that had saved us. It would be my job to prepare for that day, to make sure the next Donovan would be ready. The watchers in the mist were gone, but the watching had just begun. My name is Amelia Torres. I work as a park ranger in the Everglades. The Everglades is a big swamp in Florida with lots of water, grass, and animals. I've worked here for a long time. My grandma was from the Seminole tribe, and she taught me all about these swamps when I was little. Now I know these waters like the back of my hand. This morning started like any other day. The sun was just coming up, making everything look golden and pretty. I was driving my airboat through the foggy water. An airboat is a flat boat with a big fan on the back that pushes it. I could hear bugs buzzing and birds calling to each other. This was how mornings always sound in the swamp. But then I noticed something weird. Parts of the water were too still. In the swamp, water always has little movements. Fish jumping, baby alligators swimming, bugs skimming across it. But I kept seeing spots where the water was as smooth as a mirror. That's not normal. I turned off my boat engine to look closer. That's when I saw strange, round dents in the lily pads and grass. Perfect circles like something big had pushed up from under the water and then gone back down. "That's odd," I said to myself. Suddenly, a bunch of white birds called egrets all flew up at the same time. They left the spot where they had been eating. Nothing had scared them that I could see, but something made them leave their breakfast behind. I started my boat again and went to a small island where I usually see a few alligators sunning themselves. But today, there were about 15 big alligators all crowded together on that tiny island. This is really strange because alligators don't like to be close to each other. They like their space. Something had these alligators so scared they were all huddled together. My radio made a crackling noise. "Torres, you out there?" It was Sam from the ranger station. "I'm in Section 7, I answered. "Something strange is happening with the animals." "Strange how?" "The alligators are all bunched together. Birds are acting scared, and the water—" I didn't know how to explain it. "Write it in your report later." "Hey, can you check on Fisher's camp? He didn't call in, and his wife says he didn't come home last night. Another missing person. That made 3 this month." "I'll go check," I said, turning my boat toward where the fishermen camp. As I moved through a narrow water path, the water suddenly changed. One minute it was normal swamp water, greenish-brown and muddy, and the next it was super clear, like looking through glass. I could see all the way to the bottom, every stick and plant in the mud. I'd never seen anything like it in all my years here. My depth finder started beeping like crazy. A depth finder is a machine that tells how deep the water is. I looked at it, and the numbers made no sense. The map said this area was about 12 feet deep, but the machine kept showing crazy. Numbers, 300 feet, 350 feet. I hit it with my hand, thinking it was broken. Then it got really cold all of a sudden. I could see my breath in front of my face, even though it was already hot out. Cold spots in water happen sometimes, but this was different. It was moving, against the flow, like it was following me. When I got to Fisher's camp, his boat was there, tied upright. But Fisher wasn't anywhere. Everything looked normal. No signs of trouble, no blood, nothing wrong. Just another empty boat. Like my partner Miguel's 2 years ago. We found his airboat floating empty, engine still running. No sign of him anywhere. On my way back, I stopped at a small island to stretch my legs. That's when I saw them, scales like from a huge fish or reptile washed up on the shore. But they weren't like any I'd seen before. They were the size of my hand, shiny with rainbow colors when the sun hit them. I picked one up and almost dropped it. It was ice cold. I took pictures with my phone, then carefully put one of the scales in a plastic bag. Whatever was happening in my swamp, I was going to figure it out. I touched the wooden necklace around my neck, my grandma's protection charm. She gave it to me before she died. "Keep the old ones from seeing you," she'd said. I never understood what she meant. Until now, maybe. I had a feeling that these strange things, the still water, the scared animals, the weird depth readings, the missing people, they were all connected. And somehow I felt like I'd been waiting for this my whole life. My grandma's voice seemed to whisper in my head. "There are times when the deep waters rise, child. Times when those who swam before the land was dry come back." I shivered, and it wasn't because of the cold spot following my boat. Something very old was waking up in the Everglades, and I had a feeling it knew I was watching. The next day I went to the ranger station early. I needed to talk to someone about what I'd seen. My boss, Chief Parker, was there. He's been working in the Everglades even longer than me. "Chief, I need to show you something," I said, pulling out the scale I'd found and my phone with the pictures. He looked at the scale for a long time. "Never seen anything like this," he said finally. "Could be from some weird fish that got loose from someone's aquarium. Happens all the time." But I could tell he was worried too. "What about the missing people?" I asked. Chief Parker sighed. "Torres, I know you're still upset about Miguel, but people get lost in the Everglades. They fall in, alligators get them, they wander off. Happens every year." I wanted to argue, but just then, a tall man in a wrinkled shirt walked in. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Dr. Webb is here about the water tests," the front desk ranger announced. The man stuck out his hand. "Dr. Marcus Webb, marine biologist from Miami University," he said. "I'm here to study the water quality changes you reported." Chief Parker seemed happy to change the subject. "Torres here will take you out. She knows where the weird spots are." An hour later, Dr. Webb and I were back on my airboat. He had about 6 different machines with him and a bunch of water sample bottles. "So what exactly are you studying?" I asked him as we headed out. "Something's killing off fish in certain areas," he said, checking his equipment. "And water oxygen. Levels are dropping in spots where they shouldn't be. Plus, there are reports of unusual sounds underwater." "What kind of sounds?" "Like clicking or humming, too regular to be natural." He looked up at me. "You don't believe it's just normal swamp changes, do you?" I shook my head. "My grandmother used to tell stories about the Everglades, about things that lived here before people came, things that remember when all of Florida was underwater." Dr. Webb raised his eyebrows. "You know, science and stories sometimes end up at the same place, just taking different paths to get there." He wasn't making fun of me like some scientists might. We reached the first spot where I'd seen the strange still water yesterday. Dr. Webb started testing right away, dropping machines into the water and filling bottles with samples. "This is odd," he said, looking at one of his screens. "The oxygen here is almost completely gone. Nothing should be able to live in this water. But there's nothing dead floating around, I said. If the oxygen is gone, where are all the dead fish? Exactly, he frowned. It's like something took both the oxygen and the fish. We visited 3 more spots like this. At each one, Dr. Webb got more and more quiet, which made me more and more worried. Scientists are supposed to get excited when they find something new, not scared. Let's check that area where your depth finder went crazy, he said finally. We headed to the deep spot I'd found yesterday. When we got there, Dr. Webb dropped a better depth finder into the water. We both watched the screen. Feet, 100 feet, 300 feet, 50 feet. That's impossible, he whispered. The Everglades isn't deep anywhere. The deepest natural spot is maybe 20 feet. Just then, the engine on my airboat sputtered and died. We were stuck right over the deep spot. What's wrong with it? Dr. Webb asked. I don't know. It was fine a minute ago. I tried the starter again. Nothing happened. Even weirder, my phone was dead too, and Dr. Webb's fancy equipment had all shut off. We sat in silence for a minute. Without the engine noise, the swamp seemed too quiet. No birds calling, no bugs buzzing, nothing. Then I noticed something. The water around our boat was moving in a circle like a slow whirlpool, but there shouldn't be any current here. Dr. Webb, I whispered, pointing at the water. He leaned over to look. That's against the natural flow, he said quietly. Something's creating that current. While he was looking at the water, I was watching his underwater camera screen. It had just enough battery to show what was below us, and what I saw made my skin crawl. The bottom of the Everglades here didn't look natural. There were huge, perfect shapes down there, circles and squares and triangles that looked like they were made by something smart, not by nature. Dr. Webb, I said, my voice shaking a little. Look at your camera. He turned back, and his face went pale. Those are artificial patterns, like buildings or ruins. How old would something like that have to be that deep in the Everglades? I asked. Thousands of years, before the Everglades even existed. He looked up at me. Before this was all swamp, when it was still under the ocean. The circle of water around us started moving faster. Without thinking, I grabbed my paddle and started moving us away from the spot. Dr. Webb helped, and slowly we drifted away from the strange deep area. As soon as we were about 50 feet away, my engine suddenly roared to life by itself. All the electronics turned back on at once. Let's get out of here, I said. Dr. Webb just nodded. As we sped away, I looked back over my shoulder. For just a second, I thought I saw something break the surface of the water where we'd been. Something huge and dark that caught the sunlight for just a moment before slipping back under. By the time we got back to the ranger station, the sun was setting. Dr. Webb was quiet the whole way back, tapping on his devices and frowning. I need to analyze these samples, he said finally. Can I set up in the research platform out in Section 5? It has the equipment I need. That old thing. Nobody's used it in years, I said. But sure, I can take you there tomorrow. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about those shapes under the water, about the missing people, about my grandmother's stories. I got up and found my grandmother's old journal, the one she'd given me years ago. I'd never really read it before. It was full of old stories and warnings that never made much sense to me, but tonight, one page caught my eye. When the waters grow still and cold, when the creatures of the shallows flee to dry land, the old swimmer stirs in the deep places. It remembers when all was water. It hungers for what walks on 2 legs. The charm will hide you from its sight, but beware when the moon is new and the tide is high, for then it rises to claim what once was its domain. I touched the wooden charm around my neck. Tomorrow night would be a new moon, and the tide would be the highest of the year. The next morning was cloudy and still. No wind at all. Even the birds seemed quiet as I took Dr. Webb out to the old research platform. It was built on stilts over the water years ago, when scientists were studying the Everglades. Now it was mostly empty, but it still had power and some equipment. "Thanks for bringing me here," Dr. Webb said, as he unloaded his bags. "I need to test these water samples right away." "I'll come back this afternoon to check on you," I told him. "I need to do my regular patrol." As I drove my airboat away, I felt uneasy leaving him there alone. But I had a job to do. My patrol route took me past some of the fishing spots where locals like to go. But today, every single spot was empty. No boats, no fishermen, nobody. That had never happened before, not even during bad storms. I stopped at Billy Red's bait shop, which floats on big plastic barrels at the edge of the swamp. Billy's been here forever and knows all the fishermen. "Where is everyone, Billy?" I asked when I pulled up. Billy looked nervous. "Nobody's going out today. Word's got around." "What word?" "Tommy Lee was out at dawn yesterday," Billy said, lowering his voice. "Said he saw something big in the water. Really big. At first he thought it was the biggest gator ever, but then he realized gators don't have that many parts." "Parts?" I asked. "Like arms," he said, "or tentacles. I don't know." Billy shook his head. Then last night, 3 more boats went missing. Just empty boats floating around this morning. My stomach felt cold. Did they report it? To who? The rangers think they're just lost or drunk, but we know better. Billy looked out at the water. "Something's out there hunting." I thanked him and continued my patrol, my hand touching the wooden charm around my neck. The more I looked, the more strange things I noticed. All the alligators were gone from the water. Every single one was on land, as far from the water as they could get. Even the babies. Fish were jumping out of the water onto the banks, flopping around in the mud rather than staying in the water. And strangest of all, the water itself seemed to be changing color in patches. Not just clear like before, but almost glowing in some spots, with a faint blue-green light coming from deep below. By the time I got back to the research platform, I was really worried. Dr. Webb had to know something was seriously wrong. I pulled my airboat up to the platform's dock and climbed the stairs. "Dr. Webb," I called. "You need to see what's happening out there." No answer. The door to the main room was open. Inside, all of Dr. Webb's equipment was running. Little machines hummed and beeped. Computer screens showed charts and numbers. But Dr. Webb wasn't there. "Dr. Webb," I called again, checking the other rooms. Nothing. Back in the main room, I looked at his equipment. One screen showed underwater camera footage. It was pointed at the bottom of the water right under the platform. At first, I didn't see anything special, just mud and plants. Then I noticed shapes in the mud, the same kind of geometric patterns we had seen yesterday, but fresh-looking, like something had just made them. Circles and lines and strange symbols that almost looked like writing. Another screen showed sound waves. There was a repeating pattern like beep, 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 pause, beep, beep, pause, beep, 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 over and over. It wasn't random. It had a pattern like someone trying to communicate. Dr. Webb's notebook was open on the desk. His handwriting got messier toward the bottom of the page, like he was writing faster and faster. Water samples show unknown organic material. Not plant, not animal, not fungus. Cellular structure unlike anything in scientific record. Sound patterns definitely. Artificial. Mathematical sequences, prime numbers. Temperature dropping rapidly. Equipment showing electrical field growing stronger. Something is moving under the platform. Large mass, not showing up on sonar, but visible on camera. Making contact with unknown biolu. The writing stopped mid-word, the pen dragging a line across the page. I looked up at the monitors again. The underwater camera now showed a close-up of something I couldn't make sense of at first. It looked like skin, but not like any animal skin I knew. It had a pattern that shifted and changed. Colors slightly, like it was trying to match the mud and plants around it. Camouflage, but more perfect than any animal could do. As I watched, the camera moved back a little, and I could see more. It looked almost like a huge snake's body, but with smaller limbs or tentacles growing out of it. And there were lights on it. Little spots that glowed and dimmed in patterns, the same blue-green glow I'd seen in patches of water earlier. The camera kept moving back, like someone was adjusting it to see more. The thing was massive, way bigger than the biggest alligator I'd ever seen, but the strangest part was that it had what looked like metal or stone pieces attached to it or growing out of it, geometric shapes similar to what we'd seen underwater. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Where was Dr. Webb? Had he seen this thing? Had it taken him? Suddenly, all the equipment shut off at once. The lights went out too. Complete darkness in the lab. I froze, not daring to move or breathe. From outside, I heard a splash. Something heavy had hit the water, then another splash, closer to the platform, and then the whole platform shook slightly, like something heavy was climbing onto it. Water dripped outside the door. Slow, heavy footsteps on the deck. I backed up, against the wall, my hand clutching my grandmother's charm so tight it hurt. "Keep the old ones from seeing you," I whispered. The footsteps stopped right outside the door, then a voice spoke. It sounded like Dr. Webb, but wrong, like someone trying to make their mouth form words it wasn't used to making. "Amelia," it said slowly. "Come see what I found." I didn't move. That wasn't Dr. Webb, not anymore. Cold, down, there, the voice continued. "But beautiful, so old. They want to meet you." My free hand found a heavy flashlight on the desk. I gripped it tight. "Your grandmother knew," the voice said. "She spoke to us once. You can too." The door began to open slowly. In the faint light from outside, I could see Dr. Webb's shape, but his eyes were different. They reflected light like an alligator's eyes. And his fingers, they were longer, with a thin webbing between them. "Don't be afraid," he said. "They've been here so long, watching, waiting for the waters to rise again." I raised the flashlight, ready to defend myself. But Dr. Webb didn't come any closer. He just stood there, dripping water, his strange eyes glowing slightly in the dark. "Tonight," he said, his voice getting clearer, like he was getting better at using it. "When the moon is dark, they will come up, all of them. You should join us under the water, Amelia. It's where we all came from in the beginning." Then he turned and walked away, his footsteps uneven, like he wasn't used to walking anymore. I heard another splash as he went back into the water. I waited. 5 minutes, then 10, before I dared to move. My hands were shaking as I grabbed Dr. Webb's notebook and a few sample bottles from his desk. Then I ran for my airboat and got out of there as fast as I could. The sun was getting low. I had only a few hours until dark, until the new moon rose, until whatever was in the water came up to the surface. I raced back to the ranger station, my mind spinning with what I'd just seen. The changed Dr. Webb, the strange creature on the camera, the writing in the notebook about unknown life forms. Chief Parker was in his office when I burst in. "Torres, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Something's in the water," I said, trying to catch my breath. "Something big. It got Dr. Webb." He frowned. "What do you mean, got him?" I put Dr. Webb's notebook on his desk and flipped to the last pages. Look at his notes. Then I found him changed. His eyes were different. His hands had webbing. He was talking about things under the water wanting to meet me. Chief Parker read the notes slowly. His face grew more serious with each page. "Torres," he said finally, "I've been getting calls all day about empty boats and missing people, and the wildlife reports are crazy. All the alligators are leaving the water. That's never happened before." He rubbed his face, looking suddenly older. I didn't want to believe it, but he reached into his desk drawer and pulled out an old beaten-up folder. The label on it said, "Classified, Aquatic Anomalies, 1952-1970. "Where did you get that?" I asked. "It was passed down to each chief ranger," he said. "Most of us never opened it, thought it was just old stories." He handed it to me. "But maybe you should look at it." Inside were yellowed papers with official government stamps, reports about unusual biological entities in the deep parts of the Everglades, blurry photos of something large moving under the water, accounts of missing people and strange animal behavior going back decades. "This happened before?" I asked. Chief Parker nodded. "According to this, in 1952 and 1969, both times during a new moon with an unusually high tide." "Just like tonight," I whispered. Chief Parker stood up. "I'm calling for backup, getting everyone out of the water areas." He grabbed his radio. "You should go home, Torres. Get somewhere safe and high." I shook my head. "No, I need to go back out there." "Are you crazy? After what happened to Webb?" "My grandmother knew about these things," I said. "She left me information, and I'm wearing her protection charm." I touched the wooden amulet. "I might be the only one who can get close enough to find out what they want." Chief Parker looked like he wanted to argue, but then his radio crackled with a panicked voice. "Multiple sightings at Osprey Point. Large creature in the water. Need backup." Another voice broke in. "Something's coming out of the water at Blue. Heron Lake. It's huge." Then a third. "The water's rising at Sawgrass Channel, way too fast to be natural." Chief Parker grabbed his gear. "I have to coordinate the evacuation." He looked at me hard. "Torres, if you're going out there, be careful. And report in every 30 minutes. If I don't hear from you, I'm sending everyone I have to find you." I nodded and ran back to my airboat. The sun was setting as I headed back toward the deep spot where we'd found the underwater structures. The water was definitely higher than normal, covering areas that should have been dry land. And it was, moving strangely, with currents going in directions they shouldn't. As it got darker, I could see the glowing patches in the water more clearly. They weren't random. They were forming paths, like runway lights guiding something to the surface. "Cut my engine about 100 yards from the deep spot." I didn't want to announce my arrival. From here, I would paddle quietly. The night was getting darker. No moon, just like my grandmother's journal warned. The stars seemed dimmer too, like something was blocking their light. As I paddled closer to the deep spot, I saw something that made me freeze. The water in the center was moving, bulging upward, like something huge was rising to the surface. Then it broke through. In the dim light, I couldn't see it clearly at first. It was enormous, bigger than a school bus. Its skin glistened and shifted. The colors, sometimes looking scaly like a fish, sometimes smooth like a dolphin. Parts of it glowed with the same blue-green light I'd seen in the water, but the strangest thing was its shape. It had a long, snake-like body, but with multiple limbs or tentacles coming off it. Some looked like arms, others like fins. And embedded in its skin were what looked like pieces of metal or stone, geometric shapes that glowed faintly. It wasn't like any animal I'd ever seen or heard of. It was like something from another world, or from deep time, from when the Earth was young. I ducked down in my boat, praying it hadn't seen me. My heart was beating so hard I was afraid it would hear it. Then I heard splashing, lots of splashing from different directions. I peeked over the edge of my boat. There were people in the water, swimming toward the creature. Some I recognized, fishermen who had gone missing. And there was Dr. Webb, but they were all changed. Their skin glistened in the dark. Their hands and feet were webbed. Their eyes reflected light like alligators' eyes. They swam up to the giant creature and began touching it, almost like they were greeting it. The creature's limbs gently wrapped around some of them, lifting them onto its body. Then Dr. Webb spoke. His voice carried across the water, sounding more normal than before. We know you're there, Amelia Torres. We can smell you, feel your heart beating. Come join us. I gripped my paddle tighter, ready to try to escape, but I knew I couldn't out-paddle them. Your grandmother spoke to us once, Dr. Webb continued. She understood what we are, what we've always been, the first ones, before the land rose from the sea. The giant creature turned slowly, its massive body making waves that rocked my boat. I could feel it focusing on me, even though I couldn't see anything like eyes on it. It remembers when all of Florida was underwater, Dr. Webb said. When its kind ruled the oceans, before the mammals, before the dinosaurs even. They retreated to the deep places when the land rose, waiting, watching for the right time to return. The creature moved closer to my boat. One of its limbs reached out, hovering just above the water near me. We're not here to hurt anyone, Dr. Webb said. We're here to prepare. The waters are rising again, Amelia. The ice is melting. In time, this will all be ocean again. We're just getting ready. I found my voice. What about the missing people? What did you do to them? We showed them the truth, their real origin. All life came from the water first. We just reminded their bodies of that fact. The limb moved closer to my boat. I could see it better now. It wasn't just a tentacle. It had what looked like technology embedded in it. Lights and metal pieces that were somehow part of its flesh. They aren't in pain, Dr. Webb said. They're evolved, improved. They can breathe water now, live in both worlds. The creature's limb touched my boat. I felt a jolt, like electricity running through the metal parts. I grabbed my grandmother's charm tight. Ah, Dr. Webb said, his voice changing. The protection. She gave it to you. That's why we can't connect with you like the others. The creature's limb pulled back a little. She spoke to us, you know. Your grandmother. Years ago, she found us, understood us, made an agreement. What agreement? I asked. That we would stay in the deep places, not take too many, only those who were willing or who threatened us. And in return, she would ensure her people remembered us, respected the deep waters, kept our secret. I remembered the stories my grandmother told, about respecting the deep parts of the Everglades, about leaving offerings sometimes. I always thought they were just old traditions. But now the waters are rising faster than before, Dr. Webb said. The climate is changing. We need to prepare more territories, find more helpers. The old agreement needs to change. The giant creature moved closer again. In the darkness, I could see more of them now, smaller versions, maybe young ones swimming around the big one. Then I heard another boat engine. Lights swept across the water. The Ranger patrol boat. The creature immediately began to sink back into the water. The changed people dove down too, disappearing beneath the surface. Dr. Webb was the last to go. We'll talk again, Amelia Torres, when you're ready to hear more. When you're ready to see what's beneath the surface of everything you think you know. Then he dove under, leaving barely a ripple. The patrol boat pulled up next to me, Chief Parker shining a spotlight around. Torres, are you okay? We've been calling you for an hour. Had it been that long? It felt like minutes. I saw them, I said, my voice shaking. The thing in the water and the missing people. They've been changed. Chief Parker helped me into the patrol boat. We're getting reports from all over the Everglades. Sightings, strange lights in the water, people acting weird near the deep spots. They said they're preparing, I told him. They said the waters are rising, and they're getting ready to take back what was theirs. As we headed back to shore, I looked over my shoulder at the dark water. For just a second, I thought I saw a pattern of glowing lights under the surface, following us, and I couldn't help wondering if my grandmother had made the right deal with what lived beneath the still waters of the Everglades, or if that deal was about to be broken. Beneath still waters back at the ranger station, things were crazy. Rangers were coming in from all over the Everglades with stories about strange sightings. Tourists and locals were calling about weird lights in the water and people acting strange near the shorelines. Chief Parker set up a command center in the main office. He had maps spread out on tables with markers showing where all the sightings had happened. "Look at this pattern," he said, pointing to the map. All the markers formed a huge circle around the deepest parts of the Everglades. "They're surrounding us," I said quietly. "Or protecting something in the center," Chief Parker replied. He turned to the other rangers. "I want everyone out of the water. No boats go out tonight. Call the Coast Guard and Wildlife Service for backup. And get the evacuation started for the low-lying areas." While everyone scrambled to follow orders, I snuck away to a quiet corner. I needed to think. The creature had said my grandmother made a deal with them, that she understood them. I needed to understand too. I pulled out her journal again and flipped through it, looking for anything that might help. Near the back, I found a page that made my heart skip. "To speak with the old ones, you must go to them freely, wear the charm for protection, but know this: they can only change those who are willing or afraid. Fear opens the door to transformation. Courage keeps you human." Below that were instructions for a mixture of plants that would help me stay awake underwater, and a map showing a spot in the very center of the deep area. I knew what I had to do. I slipped out while everyone was busy. I grabbed emergency diving gear from the ranger storage, a small tank and mask. I also took a waterproof flashlight and a knife, just in case. Then I headed back out in my airboat. The water was even higher now, with a strange current pulling everything toward the center of the Everglades. I stopped at a small island to prepare. Following my grandmother's instructions, I mixed together certain plants and roots, making a paste that I put under my tongue. It tasted awful, but the journal said it would help me breathe better underwater and stay clear-headed. The night was pitch black now. No moon, few stars, but I could see glowing trails in the water, like strings of blue-green lights leading to the center. I put on the diving mask and small air tank. It wasn't meant for deep diving, just emergency underwater work. But it would have to do. I touched my grandmother's charm for courage, then slipped into the water. The water felt strange against my skin, thicker somehow, and weirdly warm in spots, then suddenly cold in others. I followed one of the glowing trails, swimming toward the center. As I got deeper, I started to see structures under the water. Not natural things like rocks or plants, but built things, walls and arches and platforms made of stone and what looked like metal. They were ancient, covered in plants and mud, but definitely made by intelligent hands. Or whatever these creatures had instead of hands. Fish swam past me, but they moved in strange ways, in perfect formations, like they were being controlled. I saw a group of alligators too, swimming together in a circle around something I couldn't see. Then the water opened up into a huge space. It was like an underwater clearing, with the plants and mud pushed away to reveal what looked like an ancient city. Buildings and towers, mostly broken and fallen, but clearly once magnificent, and in the center was the largest creature I'd seen yet. It made the one from earlier look small. This one was easily the size of a whale, with the same snake-like body but even more limbs and appendages. Parts of it glowed so bright it lit up the whole underwater city. Around it were hundreds of the changed people, former humans who now looked partly like fish or frogs, with webbed hands and feet and large shining eyes. They moved around the creature in patterns, almost like a dance or ceremony. I stayed back, hiding behind a fallen pillar, but somehow the giant creature sensed me anyway. It turned, and I felt a pressure in my head, like it was trying to speak to my mind. Dr. Webb swam up to me. He looked even less human now. His neck had gills, his feet were completely webbed, and his skin had a faint blue-green glow. "You came," he said, his voice somehow clear underwater. "We knew you would. Your grandmother's blood runs in you. She was wise, a bridge between worlds." "What do you want?" I asked, surprised that I could speak and breathe at the same time. "The paste must be working." to show you," he said. "Follow me." Against my better judgment, I swam after him, staying close. To the charm around my neck, Dr. Webb led me to a structure that looked like a temple. Inside was a wall covered in carvings and what looked like writing. Parts of it glowed with the same blue-green light. "Our history," Dr. Webb said. "We were here first, before humans, before most creatures, you know. We built cities when your kind were still learning to use fire." He pointed to carvings showing strange creatures building structures, then to others showing water covering everything, then receding. The waters rose and fell many times. When they fell too far, we retreated to the deep places, slept, waited. Some of us learned to change our forms, to adapt. He touched another section of the wall. Your kind evolved, spread, forgot where you came from, forgot us. The giant creature outside moved closer to the temple entrance. I could feel its presence like a physical weight. "Now the waters are rising again," Dr. Webb said, "faster than before, because of what your kind has done to the air and the land. We are waking up, preparing." "Preparing for what?" I asked. "For the world that's coming. Parts of your land will drown, become ours again." He looked at me with his strange eyes. "But we don't need to be enemies. Your grandmother understood that." The giant creature's limb reached into the temple, stopping just short of me. I could see it more clearly now. It wasn't just a tentacle or arm. It had technology embedded in it, things that looked both grown and built, both flesh and machine. "What are you?" I whispered. "We are the Old Ones," Dr. Webb said. "Part of this world's first intelligent life. We built things, created things, long before mammals walked the land." The creature's limb moved slightly, revealing what looked like devices attached to it. They glowed and pulsed with light. "Are you going to take more people?" I asked. "Change them like you changed the others?" "Only those who are willing," Dr. Webb said, "or those who try to harm us. The waters will rise with or without us, Amelia. Many of your kind will need to adapt or die. We offer adaptation." I thought about what my grandmother's journal had said, about fear opening the door to transformation. "What do you want from me?" I asked. "To be a bridge, like your grandmother was," Dr. Webb said. "To help your kind understand what's coming, to help them choose adaptation over extinction." The creature's limb moved closer. I could feel it trying to connect with my mind, pushing against the protection of my grandmother's charm. "Take off the charm," Dr. Webb said softly. "Join us. See the world through our eyes. Understand fully." For a moment, I was tempted to know what they knew, to see what they saw, to breathe water as easily as air. Then I remembered the rest of what my grandmother wrote. "Courage keeps you human." "No," I said firmly. "I won't take it off. But I will listen, I will try to understand, and I will help protect your deep places from those who would harm you. But I stay human." The creature pulled its limb back a little. I felt the pressure in my mind ease. Dr. Webb smiled, a strange expression on his changed face. "Your grandmother said almost the same thing years ago. The blood truly runs strong." He swam around me in a circle. "Here is our offer. We stay in the deep places for now, take only those who come to us willingly, and in return you keep others from disturbing our awakening, from trying to hurt us out of fear." "And when the waters rise more?" I asked. "Then we will need new territories, new understanding, but that day is still years away, time enough for your kind to learn, to prepare, to choose." I thought about it. It seemed like the best deal I was going to get, and maybe the best for everyone. "I agree," I said, "but I need something from you too. I need to know what happened to my partner, Miguel. He disappeared 2 years ago." Dr. Webb's face changed. He looked almost sad. "He found us too early, before we were ready to be seen. He was afraid, very afraid. Fear opened him to change." "Is he still himself? Does he remember?" Dr. Webb pointed to one of the changed humans swimming near the giant creature. Even with his transformed appearance, I recognized Miguel's movements, the way he tilted his head. "He remembers," Dr. Webb said. "But he's more than he was. He can't go back now. None of us can." My heart ached, but at least I knew. At least he was still alive in some way. "My air is running low," I said. "I need to go back." Dr. Webb nodded. "You can return any time. The charm will protect you from changing, but not from seeing, from knowing." He led me back to where I'd entered the underwater city. Before I left, the giant creature moved one last time, bringing its massive body close to me. A limb reached out, not touching me, but offering something. It was a scale, like the ones I'd found on the shore. But this one was fresh, still glowing faintly. "A token," Dr. Webb said. "So others like us will know you are a bridge keeper, a guardian of the agreement." I took the scale. It was cold, but seemed to pulse slightly in my hand, like it had its own heartbeat. Then I swam back to the surface, to my boat, to the world of air and land and human things. It took me 3 days to convince Chief Parker and the others that the crisis was over, that the creatures had retreated back to the deep parts of the Everglades. I didn't tell them everything. Just enough for them to put out warnings about certain areas being off-limits due to environmental concerns. The official report blamed everything on gas leaks from underwater pockets, causing hallucinations and strange lights. The missing people were listed as drowning victims, their bodies likely taken by alligators or swept out to sea. But I knew the truth. And now, 6 months later, I still patrol the Everglades every day, watching for signs, keeping people away from the deep spots, sometimes warning off researchers or explorers who get too curious about the underwater structures that occasionally show up on their equipment. At night sometimes, I take my boat out to the center area and just sit quietly. Sometimes Dr. Webb surfaces, still changing more each time I see him. We talk about the rising waters, about what's coming, about how to prepare. And sometimes I feel the giant creature moving deep below my boat, watching me through the water, learning about my world as I learn about theirs. The wooden charm stays around my neck. My feet stay dry, I remain human, but I dream of the underwater city now, of the things they built, the knowledge they have, of Miguel swimming free in the deep waters. And I wonder if my grandmother made the right choice, staying human. I wonder if I'm making the right choice, because the waters are rising, inch by inch, year by year. Someday, the choice might not be mine to make anymore. Until then, I patrol the still waters of the Everglades, a bridge between worlds, a keeper of ancient agreements, and I watch the water for ripples that move against the current, for cold spots that follow my boat, for the signs that the old ones are swimming just beneath the surface of our world, waiting, watching, rising. My name is Nathan Ramsey, and I work as a park ranger at Denali National Park in Alaska. I've been here for 5 years now. People think Alaska is just snow and ice, but it's really pretty. There are big forests, tall mountains, and at night, green lights dance in the sky. Tonight feels different, though. I'm sitting at my desk in my cabin, trying to fix my radio. There's lots of noise coming from it. My cabin is small but cozy, just a bed, a little kitchen, and my work stuff. Through my frosty windows, I can see the big, empty wilderness and those green lights in the sky. We call them northern lights. Hello, base? This is Ramsey at Outpost 7. Can anyone hear me? I say into my radio, but I just get crackling noises back. Then I notice something weird about the northern lights. They're not flowing like they usually do. They're going pulse, 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 you stop, pulse, 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 stop, like a heartbeat. I've watched these lights for years and never seen them do this. I put on my jacket and go outside. The cold air hits me right away, but that's not what makes me stop and stare. It's how quiet it is. If you've ever been in the woods, you know it's never really quiet. There's always wind in the trees, animals making noises, branches moving. But right now there's no sound at all, like someone turned off all the noise in the whole forest. That's weird, I say out loud, and I can see my breath in the air. But my breath doesn't fade away like it should. It just hangs there, making a strange shape before slowly breaking apart. That's not normal. I checked my thermometer. An hour ago, it said -20. That's cold, but normal for Alaska in winter. Now it says -60, and it's getting colder. Looking toward the valley, I can actually see the cold coming toward my cabin, like a wave you can't see. Then I hear scratching on the side of my cabin. I take my flashlight and point it at the noise. I'm shocked by what I see. 3 wolverines are pressed against my cabin wall. Wolverines are wild animals that usually stay far away from people. They're not trying to get in. They're just huddled together, shaking. Not because they're cold. These animals are used to winter, but because they seem scared. Behind them stands a fox, completely still, staring into the dark. I go back inside and look at my weather equipment. Part of my job is to track earthquakes and storms, but the readings don't make sense. My machine that picks up sounds too low for human ears is showing perfect, even wave patterns. Nature doesn't make perfect patterns like that. Earthquakes, avalanches and storms are always a bit random. This looks like someone made it. I look out the window again with my binoculars. The ice outside is forming into shapes. Not normal icicles, but perfect round balls hanging in the air, triangles growing up from the ground, and spirals wrapping around tree branches. My radio suddenly makes a loud noise, scaring me. Ramsey, can you hear me? The voice is breaking up, but I know it's Dr. Nakamura from the research station 10 miles away. Eliza, I hear you. Something strange is happening out here. I know, our machines are going crazy. The temperature dropping, moving toward you. The static gets worse, but I start to notice the noise isn't just random. It has a pattern, like it's repeating in a way that sounds like code. Then I hear whimpering from under my bed. My sled dogs, Kodiak, Juno, and Sitka, are hiding together. These dogs are usually brave. They've faced bears and survived snowstorms, but now they're hiding like scared puppies. When I bend down to check on them, I see tiny drops of blood coming from their ears. The radio static grows louder, making clear beeps that I suddenly realize is binary code, 1s and 0s. I feel a chill that's not from the cold as I realize whatever is causing this is trying to talk to us, and it's coming right toward my cabin. Most people think I became a park ranger because I love nature. That's only half true. The other half is what I'm running from. 5 years ago, I was an acoustic engineer. That's a fancy way of saying I studied sound. I was good at it too, really good. I worked for a big company that made sonar systems for ships. Sonar uses sound waves underwater to find things you can't see, like a bat using sound to fly at night. I loved my job until I found out what they were really doing with my work. The military was using my sound designs to make weapons that hurt sea animals like whales and dolphins. When I found out, I couldn't sleep at night. I kept thinking about all those animals in pain because of something I helped create. So I spoke up. I told everyone what was happening. The company fired me. No one would hire me after that, so I came here to the middle of nowhere, where the only sounds are natural ones. Well, until tonight. I reach under my bed and pull out a metal case. Inside is equipment I built myself, special microphones, recorders, and my hearing aid. But this isn't a normal hearing aid. I made it to help me hear sounds that most people can't. Sounds too high or too low for normal ears. I put it in my ear and turn it on. Suddenly, I can hear them. Low, rumbling sounds coming from outside. Sounds that shouldn't be there. My satellite phone rings. It's the only thing that works when the radio fails. Nathan, It's Eliza. Are you getting these readings? Dr. Nakamura's voice sounds worried. Eliza Nakamura is a scientist who studies glaciers. We met when I first came to Alaska. She thought I was just another ranger until she saw me setting up sound equipment to record the noises glaciers make when they move. Yeah, I answer. But it's more than just weird readings. The animals are acting strange, and the ice. It's forming shapes, Eliza, perfect shapes. I know, my team saw it too. The instruments say it's impossible, but the temperature keeps dropping. We're at -70 now. A chill runs through me. That can't be right. Nothing survives that. Cold. Whatever this is, she says, it started in the North Valley, the one you mapped last summer. Remember those sound corridors you found? I remember. Most people think sound just travels in all directions. But in some places, like certain valleys, sound can travel in strange ways. Sometimes a whisper can be heard miles away because of how the mountains and ice are shaped. Last summer, I mapped special spots in the park where sound behaved in unusual ways. Places where all sounds seemed to disappear, and others where sounds were louder than they should be. I grabbed my map from the wall. It's marked with all the spots I found. The red marks show places where sound disappeared. The blue marks show places where sound was stronger. Looking at the map now, I see something I missed before. The marks aren't random. They form a pattern across the park. And if I follow that pattern, Eliza, I need to check something. When did your team first notice the temperature drop? About 3 hours ago. Why? I check my journal. 3 hours ago, I was recording strange sounds near the glacier. Sounds like ice cracking, but with a rhythm that wasn't natural. I think whatever this is, it's following the sound corridors I mapped, like it's using them to travel through the park. Eliza's quiet for a moment. Nathan, that doesn't make sense. Sound doesn't cause temperature drops or make ice form shapes. I know, but 5 years studying sound taught me one thing. We don't know everything about it. Some animals can hear things we can't. Some sounds can break glass or even move objects. I look out my window again. The northern lights are pulsing faster now. The ice shapes are growing bigger. Listen, I say. I have equipment here that might help us understand what's happening, but I need your help. What do you need? Your seismic readings from the last 24 hours, and I need you to stay on the line. Whatever this is, it's getting closer. And I think it's trying to talk to us. As I say this, all my equipment suddenly shows the same time, 3:33. Every single clock, my watch, my phone, all showing 3:33, even though it's actually 9:17 p.m. Something is definitely here, and it wants our attention. I spend the next hour checking all my equipment while staying on the phone with Eliza. The weird patterns on my radio are getting stronger. When I record them and look at the picture they make, I see something that makes my heart beat faster. Eliza, I say, my voice shaking a little, the radio signals. When I look at them as a picture, they show a map. It's a map of the North Valley. That's impossible, she says. I'm looking at it right now. It's showing a spot about 5 miles from my cabin, near that old ice cave we found last year. I hear Eliza typing on her computer. Nathan, our earthquake sensors are picking up weird patterns too. They match your radio signals exactly. That shouldn't happen. Sound waves and ground shaking are totally different things. I look at my dogs, still hiding under the bed. They know something's wrong. Animals always know. I need to check it out, I say. Are you crazy? It's -70 out there and getting colder. I have my special gear, and whatever this is, it's trying to show us something. That map is pointing to a specific place for a reason. I put on my warmest clothes, special thermal underwear, 2 pairs of socks, thick pants, 3 layers on top, my heavy parka, gloves, hat, and face mask. Even with all this, I'll only last about an hour in this cold. I grab my backpack and fill it with equipment, my sound recorders, extra batteries, flares, first aid kit, satellite phone, and some food and water. I also pack my special notebook, where I write down all my sound findings. I'm going to check this out, I tell Eliza. Keep watching your equipment and call me if anything changes. Be careful, Nathan. This doesn't feel right. I hook up my sled dogs, but they refuse to move. They've never done that before. These dogs love to run, even in the worst weather, but now they just whine and pull back toward the cabin. Fine, I say. I'll take the snowmobile. The snowmobile starts with a roar that seems too loud in the strange silence. The headlight cuts through the darkness as I follow the path toward the North Valley. The trees look weird, covered in ice that forms perfect spirals up their trunks. About a mile from my cabin, I see something that makes me stop. In a small clearing, there's a moose, frozen solid. Not just dead from the cold, but frozen in a running position, like it was trying to escape. Its eyes are open wide, like it saw something terrifying. I take a picture with my phone, then keep going. The cold is getting worse. My thermometer now reads -80. That's colder than Antarctica in winter. Nothing should be able to survive this, but something is. Because as I get closer to the spot on the map, I start hearing a sound through my special hearing aid. A low humming that seems to be coming from the ice itself. I reach the entrance to the ice cave and shine my light inside. The cave wasn't big when we found it last year, just a small opening in the glacier. But now it's huge, like something melted it from the inside. And the walls, they're covered in perfect patterns, circles, squares, triangles, all connected in ways that remind me of circuit boards. I step inside, feeling the temperature drop even more. My breath freezes instantly in front of my face, but I keep going, recording everything with my equipment. The humming gets louder as I go deeper. Then my light hits something embedded in the ice wall. It's old equipment, really old. Metal boxes, with faded writing that says, "Property of U.S. Government, Project Frost Whisper, 1976. What the hell? I whisper. I take pictures of everything. Then I notice something else in the ice, a notebook. I carefully chip it out and open it. The pages are brittle but still readable. The notes inside are from a scientist named Dr. Harlow. He writes about acoustic anomalies in the park, about sounds that seem to come from the ice itself, about temperature drops and strange animal behavior, just like what's happening now. The last entry is short. It's trying to communicate. The patterns are mathematical sequences, not random, intelligent. We need to, and that's it. The rest of the pages are blank. My satellite phone rings, making me jump. "Nathan!" Eliza sounds panicked. "Get out of there now. Our sensors just went crazy. Something's happening at your location." As if on cue, the humming sound gets much louder. The ice around me starts to vibrate. Cracks appear in the walls, not breaking, but changing, reshaping. I start backing toward the entrance, but I'm too late. A wall of ice forms across the opening, sealing me inside. And then, all at once, every piece of equipment I have, my phone, my recorders, my special hearing aid, they all display the same thing. My hands are shaking now, not just from the cold, because I realize we're not alone here. We've never been alone. And whatever is here with us has been waiting a very long time to be found. I'm trapped in the ice cave, and my light is the only thing keeping the darkness away. The humming sound is all around me now. It's not just coming from one spot. It's coming from everywhere, like the whole glacier is vibrating. I need to think clearly. Panic won't help me now. "Hello?" I say out loud, feeling a little silly talking to empty air. "Is someone there?" The humming changes pitch slightly, almost like it's responding to my voice. I remember the old notebook I found. If this happened before, if that scientist was right about the ice trying to communicate, I pull out my sound equipment and set it up to record. Then I play a simple pattern through my speaker. 3 short beeps, 3 long beeps, 3 short beeps. The old SOS signal. For a moment, nothing happens. Then the humming changes again, copying my pattern exactly. Three short, three long, three short. My heart races. This is communication, basic but real. I try another pattern. Two short, pause, three short, pause, one long. The humming copies it perfectly. Then something amazing happens. The ice in front of me starts to change. It's like watching water freeze in fast motion, but the ice isn't just freezing randomly. It's forming shapes, clear, crystal shapes that catch my light and break it into rainbow colors. The shapes grow and connect, building something in front of my eyes. At first it's just a blob, but then it takes form, a kind of body with limbs, but not human, not animal either. It's like a cross between a crystal and a jellyfish, transparent and constantly shifting. I should be terrified, but instead, I'm fascinated. The scientist in me is waking up, pushing fear aside. This is discovery. The thing, the entity, hovers in front of me. It doesn't seem to move like living things do. Instead, parts of it fade and reappear in new positions, like it's jumping from spot to spot. Then my ears pop painfully. The air pressure is changing. A small space around the entity is becoming a vacuum, a place with no air at all. Sound can't travel through a vacuum, but somehow I still hear the humming. That's when I realize this thing doesn't just communicate with sound. It is sound, somehow made physical, made real. My satellite phone crackles to life. Nathan, are you there? It's Eliza, and she sounds terrified. I'm here, I say, not taking my eyes off the crystal entity. And I'm not alone. What do you mean? There's something here with me. Something not from here, at least not from any world we know. Nathan, you're not making sense. Eliza, listen carefully. Remember when we talked about how sound can affect physical objects? How certain frequencies can break glass or even move small things? Yes, but this is like that, but way beyond anything we've studied. This thing, it's like pure sound that's found a way to take physical form using ice and air and maybe energy from the northern lights. As I say this, the entity pulses brightly, like it understands. Nathan, Eliza's voice drops to a whisper. Something weird is happening to me. I can feel pulses, like beats inside my head, and I'm seeing patterns when I close my eyes. That worries me. When did this start? About 10 minutes ago, right after our sensors picked up that huge energy spike from your location. The entity moves closer to me. I force myself not to step back. I think it's connecting with you somehow, Eliza. Through the sound waves our equipment is picking up. But why me? I don't know. Maybe because you're studying the glaciers. Maybe because my words cut off as the entity suddenly expands, filling almost the whole cave. The air gets colder, if that's even possible, and my ears hurt from pressure. Changes. Then images flash in my head, fast, almost too quick to understand. Ice ages coming and going, glaciers forming and melting, strange lights in the sky, and beings, not humans, not even from Earth, coming and going. Eliza, I gasp. It's showing me things. I think these entities have been here for thousands of years, maybe millions. They exist in some other dimension or state that overlaps with ours when conditions are right. What conditions? Extreme cold, specific sound frequencies, and I pause as another image hits me, and certain cosmic alignments. The northern lights aren't just pretty lights, they're windows. Eliza, windows between worlds. The entity continues to pulse and shift. More images fill my head. I see early humans leaving offerings at glaciers. I see explorers going missing near the poles. I see that government team from the 1970s making contact, and then something going wrong. Nathan! Eliza's voice sounds strange now, distant and echoey. I can see them too, the images, but it hurts. My head feels like it's going to explode. That scares me. Eliza, try to block it out. This thing doesn't understand human biology. The way it communicates might be dangerous for us. I can't block it. It's too strong. It's like it's trying to use me as a translator. The entity before me pulses rapidly, and the images in my head become clearer. I see what looks like our solar system, then zoom out to see countless stars, then something else. Waves spreading between stars. Not light, not radiation. Something else. Sound. Cosmic sound. Vibrations that connect everything. My God, I whisper, they're like cosmic radio operators. They use sound to communicate across space. And right now, the conditions on Earth are perfect for them to manifest here. The entity contracts suddenly, becoming smaller but more solid. The temperature drops even further. My equipment is starting to fail in the extreme cold. Eliza, I say urgently, I need to find a way to communicate properly with this thing before my equipment dies. And I need to get out of this cave. There's no answer. Eliza, can you hear me? Her voice, when it comes, doesn't sound like her at all. It's flat, mechanical, with a strange rhythm. We hear, we see, we understand now. Your kind uses air vibrations, inefficient, primitive but workable. A chill runs down my spine that has nothing to do with the cold. Eliza, is that you? The one you call Eliza is helping us translate. She is compatible. My hands clench into fists. Don't hurt her. Hurt is not our purpose. Communication is our purpose. Understanding is our purpose. The entity shifts again, forming what looks almost like a face. Not human, but clearly meant to be recognizable to me. We have waited for the right alignment, for the right human. You hear what others cannot. You understand vibrations. You can help us complete our purpose. I swallow hard. What is your purpose? Why are you here? The answer comes not from my phone, but from the entity itself. A sound like crystals chiming that somehow forms words in my mind. We are recorders, gatherers of vibrations. Your world makes unique sounds. We collect them. That's when I understand. These beings aren't invaders. They're not here to harm us. They're like cosmic scientists, studying the universe through sound. But their methods are killing Eliza. And if they stay much longer, the cold they bring might spread, freezing everything for miles. I need to find a way to communicate with them properly, a way that won't hurt humans, and I need to do it fast before the cold takes me too. My fingers are getting numb. The cold is seeping through my layers of clothing. I don't have much time left. Listen, I say to the crystal entity, you're hurting my friend. You're hurting this world with your cold. We can help you collect your sounds, but not like this. The entity pulses, changing colors from blue to purple. Hurt is not intended, comes the strange voice through my phone. We adjust. The temperature rises slightly, just enough that I can feel my fingers again. It's still dangerously cold, but at least I won't freeze to death in the next few minutes. Thank you, I say. Now please, let Eliza go. Find another way to talk to us. No other compatible translator available, says the voice. This one's mind processes vibrations correctly. I need to think fast. Eliza's body won't survive this connection for long, and I need to get out of this cave. Then I remember something, my special hearing aid. I built it to translate sounds humans can't hear into ones we can. Maybe I can reverse it, make it translate human speech into something these entities can understand without hurting anyone. I have a device, I tell the entity. It can help us talk without hurting my friend, but I need to get back to my cabin to fix it. The entity hovers silently for a moment as if thinking. Show, it finally says. I take out my hearing aid and hold it up. This lets me hear sounds that are too high or too low for human ears. I can change it to help us talk to each other. The entity moves closer, examining the small device. Then, without warning, the ice wall blocking the cave entrance shatters. Go, fix, return, I don't need to be told twice. I gather my equipment and rush out of the cave, back to my snowmobile. The cold is less intense now, but still dangerous. I speed back to my cabin as fast as I can. Once inside, I call out to Eliza on my radio, but there's no answer. Just that strange humming sound. I have to work fast. I open up my toolbox and start taking apart my hearing aid. I need to reverse its function. Instead of translating weird frequencies for human ears, it needs to translate human speech into those weird frequencies. My hands shake as I work, partly from cold, partly from fear. I've never done anything like this before, but I understand sound. I understand frequencies and vibrations. If anyone can do this, I can. An hour passes. I'm sweating despite the cold. Finally, I think it's ready. I've turned my hearing aid into a translator device. It won't be perfect, but it might be good enough. I head back out into the cold, back to the ice cave. The northern lights are brighter than ever, swirling in complex patterns above me. When I reach the cave, the entity is waiting. It's changed shape again, now looking more like a network of connected crystals, pulsing within a light. I fixed it, I say, holding up my modified device. This will let us talk without hurting anyone. I turn it on and speak into it. Can you understand me now? The device translates my voice into a series of tones and pulses. The entity responds with similar sounds, which my device then translates back. Understanding achieved comes a mechanical voice from my device. Not Eliza's voice this time, but a computer-like sound. Good. Now please release my friend. There's a pause, then connection severed. Your companion is free. Relief floods through me. I immediately try my satellite phone. It takes a few rings, but finally Eliza answers. Nathan! She sounds weak, confused. What happened? My head hurts so much. You're going to be okay. Tell her. Rest now. I'll explain everything later. I turn back to the entity. Thank you. Now you said you collect sounds. What kinds of sounds? All vibrations, each world unique. Earth vibrations complex, beautiful. And you need these sounds. For what? Memory, history, universe speaks through vibrations we record. I think I understand now. These beings are like cosmic librarians, collecting the sounds of different worlds, different realities. The cold you bring hurts our world, I explain. You can't stay long. Understood. We will collect, then depart when stars shift. When will that be? 3 rotations of your world. 3 days. We can handle that as long as the cold doesn't spread too far. I can help you, I offer. I've recorded many sounds from this park. Natural sounds, animal sounds. I can give you these recordings. The entity pulses brightly. Acceptable. Efficient. I spend the next 3 days working with the entity. I bring my sound equipment to the cave and play my recordings. Glaciers carving, wolves howling, wind through trees, rivers flowing. The entity absorbs these sounds, sometimes changing shape in response to particularly complex or beautiful ones. I learn more about these beings. They exist primarily in a dimension where sound, light, and matter are the same thing. They only cross into our world during specific cosmic alignments, when the northern lights create a kind of bridge between dimensions. They've been visiting Earth for millions of years, recording the sounds of our evolving planet. They mean no harm, but their natural state is so cold that they can't help but freeze their surroundings. On the 3rd day, the northern lights begin to change pattern. The entity grows restless. Time closes, it tells me through my device. We must return. Will you come back, I ask? Yes, when stars align. 50 of your years. I'll be an old man by then if I'm still alive. I have a request, I say. Next time, use this method to communicate. I hold up my device. Don't connect directly to humans. It hurts us. Understood. Method recorded. Will replicate. The entity begins to change, stretching upward toward the sky. The other entities, there are more of them scattered across the northern regions of our world, do the same. The air fills with a sound like crystal bells ringing. Then, in a flash of green light that merges with the aurora above, they're gone. The temperature begins to rise immediately. Within hours, it's back to normal winter cold, still freezing. But naturally so, Eliza recovers, though she has headaches for weeks afterward. The strange ice formations melt, leaving no trace of the visitors except in our memories and my recordings. I send a report to park headquarters, of course, but I leave out most of the details. Who would believe me? Instead, I just report unusual weather patterns and animal behavior with a note about possible atmospheric anomalies affecting radio equipment. But I keep all my real notes, all my recordings. I create a special file called Frozen Frequency with everything I learned about our visitors. And sometimes, on clear winter nights when the northern lights dance overhead, I sit outside my cabin with my special hearing aid and listen carefully to the sky, because now I know we're not alone in the universe. And sometimes, if you know how to listen, you can hear other worlds whispering to ours. Every 50 years, they said. I mark the date in my calendar, though I might not be here to see their return, but someone will be. And maybe they'll hear what I heard, the sound of the universe speaking through the frozen frequencies of our world.